Gentlemen and other unbearable creatures of this world, I am Liam Fitzpatrick, aka Lego Liam 1803, and today I am joined by my co-host, co-founder, co-man, side bitch, Philip Wagner, aka the American Mutant. Say hello, Philip.
Oh, it's wonderful to be your side bitch once again, Liam. I thank you for introducing me with my official title. Thank you. That's right, ladies. He's taken. I'm his number one bottom bitch. Thank you for having me once again.
Yes, and we are joined today by a good friend of ours, a special guest, possibly reoccurring, Liz, aka Love Pawn. Introduce yourself.
Hey, hi. This is Love Pond. I'm here to talk about the Resistance books and comics with my buddies from the old book club.
Yes.
Hashtag bricked up.
Yes, we used to have a book club. I think we talked about it in the first episode, Philip, that we used to have one. The Resistance Book Club, where we covered the first two books and the comics, and a couple of other books that we may bring up in future episodes. But, yes, today we are covering Resistance Gathering Storm and Resistance A Hole in the Sky, written by the great man himself, William Dietz. And the Resistance comics by Mike Koska, published by Wildstorm. And we'll also be covering, in the second half of this episode, Resistance Retribution and Resistance Burning Skies, the two portable spin-offs of the Resistance games. But first, we will be talking about the first Resistance book, which was released around the same time as Resistance 2. It is set between Resistance Retribution and Resistance 2 chronologically. And now I will have our good dear friend Liz talk about the plot synopsis. Go ahead.
Alright, so the first Resistance book, Gathering Storm, it covers the political situation as during the events between Resistance Fall of Man and Resistance 2, the disastrous presidency of Noah Grace, early confrontations with the entity known as Daedalus, Nathan Hale having sexual encounters with his girlfriend, Dr. Kelsey Ackland, and then an alt girl in the sewers of Chicago. Okay, that wasn't... There's a bunch of side characters who never really show up again. Our man Capelli isn't there either. Is it Harry or Henry Stillman? Stillman shows up.
Yeah.
Stillman shows up, and honestly kind of great. Also, there's a military guy, a general, I think, who gets sent to a Chimeran concentration camp.
The Secretary of War, Walker.
Yes.
I forget his first name.
Herbert. I'm pretty sure. Was it Herbert?
I think it was Henry Walker. I think that's what it was.
Oh, yeah, Henry Walker, and then Stillman's Harry Stillman, I think.
Yeah,
Fuck it, let me check.
It is Henry Walker. I'm on the wiki right now.
Okay.
Okay, anyway, continue with... Yep. But yeah, let's continue with the rest of the story.
Mm-hmm.
Or synopsis.
Yeah, oh yeah, Henry Walker and Henry Stillman. Confusing. Okay. Oh, and Malakoff shows up.
No, it doesn't.
Malakov's around.
Oh, he's not?
No, I think he's only mentioned in the book.
Oh, wait, yeah, fuck, no, that's Hole in the Sky.
Yeah, he's in the second book.
Yeah.
Blake shows up. Blake is around. Blake yells at Hale.
So, yeah. Basically covers, Hale's sort of story in between the games. Mm-hmm. Not all of it, but a little, month of time.
Basically, like Liz explained, it shows the political landscape of the United States, which is, at this point, still very isolationist, other than, operations that Serpa is doing elsewhere in the world. It's a paradise with hell encroaching upon it, is the best way I could describe the situation the United States at that time was in. but yeah, it
Mind if I
basically just.
chime in?
Oh yeah. Sorry.
I wouldn't say paradise. It would. It's things are gradually collapsing.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
There's a semblance of normalcy, but things are gradually collapsing, and it's weird because the invasion officially starts in like burning skies.
Yes.
The Chimera had already made inroads in a bunch of places.
Right.
Yeah, it's a
So again,
little wonky. Well, we'll get there when
yeah.
we get to the comics.
But yeah, that's a pretty good general synopsis of the story. It
Mhm.
basically just follows Hale's no, I wouldn't say adventures, but like
Misadventures.
misadventures. Yeah, it gives more like it fills in the gaps between Resistance Fall of Man and the beginning of Resistance 2. So
Yeah, not a whole lot of gaps, but definitely just a little chunk of story that we get. Which
right.
does a whole lot to build Hale's character outside of those two games. It's very noted that this is the only real piece of media where Hale gets to be like an actual character.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
His actual dialogue, his actual feelings. He fucks.
He
He does a
fucks.
whole lot of other stuff.
Yeah.
He
And
has a secret childhood fort.
he
Yep.
does in a tree, under a tree. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts, Philip?
Kind of my thoughts is that this story that is portrayed in The Gathering Storm, while it does give a lot of like light on the political situation going on in the United States at that time, but I think it's definitely more of a story or also a story that focuses on Hale's reasoning for like being the way he is in Resistance 2 because we didn't get a lot of that characterization in Resistance Fall of Man and then some of the decisions made in Resistance 2 like him being like Blake's like hey listen you need a you're overdue for an inhibitor treatment you need to get it back to base and then Hale just like fuck that I'm gonna go save Malakov right it seems kind of like very unnecessarily reckless when it would possibly be easy to just get a quick inhibitor treatment and then scoot over to Bryce Canyon. Um, but like it just seems kind of like out of left field and kind of surprising to people. But like it gives Hale a lot of context in this book for the reasonings of why he does what he does. It's because of his adoptive family being more or less massacred, albeit other than Susan Farley. By the way, there'll be plenty of spoilers in this podcast for this book,
Yes.
so just forewarning. It gives a lot more characterization to Hale than other than just being like bald autistic man who fights aliens,
Mm-hmm.
Because yes, just like we have mentioned multiple times before, Hale fucks in this. He fucks.
He does.
So that
I th-
so that is
yeah.
something to look forward to in this book.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that a lot of the YouTubers who get around to actually reading it, like, they're like, oh my god, Hale has a character. Oh my god, Hale fucks.
Yeah.
I can't wait for them
Gosh.
to read Fall of Reach and be like, there's no mention of the Mjolnir armor being able to jerk off the Spartans.
I was lied to.
You have been cheated and lied to.
Yes.
I don't want to live on this
It
planet
wasn't
anymore.
real. It doesn't jerk him off.
It's real to me.
Oh, Hale is jerking off in like some nasty freaking sewer somewhere.
Right. Listen, alt girls make you do strange things.
Yeah.
It's a whole courting process. Okay.
Yeah.
But I think what also is really good about this book. It actually gives life to the Chimera that we haven't gotten to see before in any of the other forms, like video games specifically, right? It shows that they are living, breathing creatures who, even at times, still retain some of their, humanity in the sense of like, they can drive. Some of these motherfuckers can drive a
Yes.
F-150.
Yeah,
Shit for
shit for
brains.
brains. Woo! Our favorite hybrid.
Yeah. So yes, I think that's something that it does really well. I also enjoy the parts of the story that are kind of more politically charged, where it's just like, Noah's very much like I wouldn't say God complex, but very much like he is like the savior of the United States. Like he is like the second Noah's Ark, and basically he is Noah, and the Ark is the United States. Is kind of like the mentality that Noah Grace, the president of this universe, or the United States president of this universe, believes himself to be in a way. I mean, it's not. He doesn't say that himself, but like
There's
if you
a
put
there's a description from Dietz in the book who does like give backstory to him where it's like, oh, he was born on a rainy day and he was given the name Noah as like a callback to the Great Flood,
We,
and now he's really
right,
taking it seriously.
mhm.
right,
He does his whole freaking American Psycho wash, or morning wash routine.
Peels off
I wake up.
face.
Yeah, it's like I put a cucumber wash on for exactly 10 minutes, then peel it from my face.
He's fucking his wife and looking in the
Ex-
mirror in the fucking
Yeah,
Lincoln bedroom in the White House.
yeah. Um, but something else, like to add to the part of like the Chimera, we actually really get to see like inside the mind of like a crucial character that we see in Resistance 2, but never really get to interact with too much. Daedalus, and we get to hear his inner thoughts and just
Oh
how he
God.
kind of
Oh fuck the
operates.
Hannah thing.
The meat
Ah, yeah.
things. The shadow
Oh, yeah.
people and the meat things.
The meat things, which is very interesting. I think that's something that it also really does, and we also got a awesome description that we love William Dietz for as like what? How did he say it? Was it farting? Was it?
A
Farting.
wet farting sound to describe
Yes.
how
Yes.
A
Daedalus
shark.
deflates and inflates. Because
Yes,
Yes.
his
because
gas bladders.
because he's not using any sort of telekinetic means of floating. He actually has like these gas bags inside of him, like he's a hot air balloon. Like there's a more
Yes,
natural means to it. So he just
Yeah.
farts when he descends, which makes me
Yeah.
wonder why there wasn't a wet farting sound in Resistance 2 when he was flying.
Because I feel like the dialogue would be drowned out by the massive amount of like
Yes.
flatulence going on.
insert clip of Philip and I playing Retribution and then being like,
Yeah.
"Hold on, let me get down."
Oh my god.
barriers.
No, he still owns a really nice bookstore though in Charlottesville. A used bookstore. Times are hard, man.
So just stops by in Charlottesville's like my bookstore.
Hold on. Just a long gaseous fart of fucking. And then he turns to you, he's like, how may I help you? And then I whisper under my breath, the deepening has begun.
The
I know this is
carriers made a wet farting sound as they were killed, as the virus killed them.
I know this is off topic, but I'm gonna forget about it. Liam, you need to add that as part of like your YouTube poop for Resistance 2. You need to have like a section where it's just like Daedalus talking to Hale in the Iceland mission, right? And it's just drowned out by farting noises.
It's
It's
like
and it
only
says,
book
like-
readers will get this joke.
No, it's like it's a big white text that says lore accurate Daedalus.
I should add that for the ultimate cut.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's
sorry.
wearing the Hatsune Miku hair, so it's even more accurate for for an anime fan.
Oh, okay, sorry.
But yeah, we have some good characters here, and we have a lot of good new characters and characters that have returned from like little pieces of lore, and then characters
Right.
from the games past and future that are here and getting fleshed out. And I believe
Right.
we should segue into talking about some of them in a little more in depth, like Hale. Hale's our big expansion for a character.
Mm-hmm. Would you like to discuss that, Liam,
I
or
would.
take the lead?
I would like to take the lead. So as you all know, Nathan Hale's the main character of the first two Resistance games, and here he gets more fleshed out. He gets more character, as we said. He fucks. We get to see how he kind of interacts with civilian life as a Sentinel, because technically Hale is KIA. He's marked dead by the United States government, and he is now an operative of SERPA. And Sentinels have a this sort of policy at SERPA where they're not supposed to interact with any close family members, which I think we brought up in episode 2 when talking about Warner.
Mm-hmm.
And here,
Oh, poor Warner.
poor Warner. There's a part of the story where Hale convinces the SERPA helicopter pilot Purvis to fly him all the way to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, which is where the Farley Ranch is at. And I believe, I don't know if we talked about it in episode 1 or episode 2, but Hale's parents died when Hale was just an infant. They died of the influenza.
Yep.
And he was taken care of by the close family friends, the Farleys, and he grew up with his foster sister, Susan, who also gets... this is really the first piece of Resistance media where she's, like, actually a character. Because her technical debut was in the Project Abraham ARG, because there's a letter from her that was like an unlockable piece of information in the ARG. So that's kind of her introduction, but here it's her first time ever as an actual character in the franchise. But we'll get to her in a little bit. So Hale goes to his ranch and finds out that his family did like a last stand against the Chimera. There's like bullet holes everywhere, and there's blood everywhere as well. And then he finds out that Susan lived, and she buried her parents, and I believe there was like a couple neighbors that also helped out.
Yeah.
Yeah, a farmhand that was buried in the back.
Yeah, there might have been 2 farmhands.
I believe the family dog also died, unfortunately.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
But yeah, this little chapter is more of like an expansion on Hale's family and his childhood. As we mentioned before, I believe, he has a little space underneath a tree that there's even some little knickknacks from his childhood that's still there. And while he's under there, there's like this huge movement going on outside, and it's like, oh, it could be a Titan, it could be a Goliath, or it could be a Leviathan, which didn't exist yet, technically.
No.
Until Burning Skies happened, and then it got all fucked. But we'll talk about that later. Yeah, Dietz has a few Dietzenings, as we call them in the story. Where there's some mistakes with the lore, and then there's like other things where it's like, good old Dietz with the Scabrous and the wet farting.
Yeah, Scabrous. There was no Kai Lang tier bullshit, though.
Grease these freaks!
The fact that you bring up Kai Lang, Liz.
Yes.
And
everyone did.
And there's something he does with Kai Lang in his Mass Effect book, which was like, he steals a piece of cake from Anderson's fridge, I believe.
It was cereal. It was
cereal, yeah.
Yes, he sits down and eats the fucking cereal after killing him.
But he didn't kill Anderson.
Oh, fuck.
Anderson dies at the end of Mass Effect 3. Spoilers for Mass Effect 3.
Okay, I'm not a Mass Effect person, but I've heard all the...
That's fine. He does kill another beloved character, though. Anyway, Resistance. After Hale's done going through, like, the farmhouse, there's these 2 kids that he ends up finding, and the 2 of them end up, like, accidentally burning a barn down when fighting Grims and Steelheads and other hybrids. Also, when they're burning, it's described as it being, like, really rancid and smelly. Like a burning corpse.
Yeah, the tracks.
Yeah.
And then... what is it like? They find...
a lot happened in that book.
What?
What? What was your question about?
It was making me think about how a lot actually happened in that book, even though it didn't feel as cohesive as a hole in the sky.
Yeah, it felt more like an episodic misadventure on the occasion, like what I'm about to talk about right now, where him and the kids find an old neighbor's truck that still works,
Oh,
and
yeah.
they drive it, and they drive it like through a bridge
Oh,
that's
yes!
being guarded by the Chimera and a couple stalkers.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, then they use the back dumped trailer to deflect rounds as they pass by the fucking the stalkers and fucking hybrids guarding the bridge. It's like the most unbelievable bullshit that has ever seen the light of day, in my opinion. But let's continue. We'll save that for the
Yeah.
rant at the end of the.
Yeah, and then what was it like they hide behind a Titan at one point?
Oh yeah. Oh, that's where you also get the POV of a hybrid.
Yeah, where he just kind of
Yeah.
like ignores the dead body and walks along and it being, and I think it was like Dietz who wrote it as like it's more or less the hive mind trying to figure out what the hell's going on with the dead body or if it saw something or anything. It's just like whatever, and the hybrid just continues on, and then Hale and the kids get out of there. Purvis picks them up and maybe it wasn't Purvis. I don't remember.
No. They hoof it and they come across like
They come across a protection camp, and he drops the kids
Yeah.
off there.
Yeah, he brings them to a protection. Those kids fucking died off screen.
Yeah, unfortunately. Not
Yeah.
confirmed, but most likely. But yeah, he gets back to base,
Yep.
and then Blake, like, tears him a new one. He's like, but there's zero
Yep.
correspondence, zero communication, blah, blah, blah. I gotta type my way on the SerpaNet on this fucking Rolodex computer.
Listen, my porn was almost downloaded, and this came across my fucking
Yes.
desk.
And then Hale's looking at his computer like...
Interestingly,
Hale's looking at the computer like, what, Major?
Colonel.
Why is Rachel Parker on your computer?
I know. Why does it keep showing her climbing a ladder over? Why is it Why is there a looping
Why is it on
clip
loop?
of her climbing a ladder over?
Hale, I have needs. And your need is to stop the Chimera. Now leave me alone.
He's literally he keeps replaying that part on your YouTube poop for Resistance Fall of Man.
The original one.
Self insert here.
Oh my god. But yeah, that's just one of the crazy ass chapters that Hale's involved in.
Yes. There's also the Chimera attack on DC.
Yes, there is.
We get to see that.
That's the Henry Stillman chapter that...
Yes, and yeah, it's freaking wild.
Yeah, the writer for Henry Stillman collaborated on that one, I'm pretty sure it was.
Yeah, but we'll get to that in a moment. Let's do you have any final thoughts about Hale's character before we move on to another one?
There's definitely a lot more with Hale that goes on in the story. We don't have like...
Oh, we forgot the big...
We forgot the big one.
We forgot something huge.
Was huge.
Hale getting in a sniper face-off with his own sister. Because she's trying to kill the president.
We're gonna get there.
And then in the
we're gonna get there. I was about to say there's a lot that happens with Hale in this story.
Yes.
We're not gonna be able to cover everything, but there are some big moments. Like he reunites with his sister at one point because I believe he was tasked with infiltrating a Freedom First base. This is this is after his trip to Chicago, which we'll also go over. But yeah, apparently Susan has joined Freedom First, and he gets called out by her, and it's like, that's my brother! He's a fucking spy! He's supposed to be dead, or whatever. And so he's got to spill the beans to her, but yeah, later on, Susan and another character who I don't remember the name of, they're tasked with assassinating President Noah Grace as he's going on a victory tour after recapturing Daedalus for like the third time.
Yeah.
And Hale's on guard duty. He's in a sniper position, needing to protect the president of the NCR. And all I can imagine is like the fucking mission where you have to protect President Kimball.
Yeah.
But yeah, Hale spots her and then he like alerts all the other guards. It's like there's a sniper in the building, and then they're like, "Oh shit, Mr. President, get down!" And then Hale and a bunch of like other guards infiltrate the building, and Susan gets arrested.
Oh
Yep.
no, wait, that's not what happened. It was the he used one of the soldiers as his freaking rifle rest.
Yes, he did, and then he shot
Yeah.
the other guy, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
He shot.
and
Yeah.
it's an honor, sir.
And instead of shooting, I almost said President Kimball because now you get the fucking NCR fucking.
No, Grace.
No, fucking. I think she ends up shooting the fucking governor that was like there to like greet him or whatever, like the governor for I don't know Nebraska or some bullshit.
Well, they were. I think it was Nebraska. Maybe they're in Colorado. I don't know.
One of those places that's not a real state.
One of the Midwest states.
The flyover
Where
states, yeah.
state?
But yeah.
Yeah, she ends up getting arrested, and we get to see where she goes to in the next book. After the fact, he meets with the president, and the president's like, "Good job, son. You served your country well. These guys are a fucking menace."
Right.
And then it's like, after that, Blake spills the beans to Hale, and he's like, because at this point in time of the story, I think they already did the operation where they tried to go save Henry Walker, and then they obtained the recordings that he made of the cabinet meetings, and then
Yes, yeah.
and then he's like, Hale, the president's trying to make a plan to negotiate with Daedalus, and it basically involves the U.S. being left alone and Daedalus taking over the rest of the world. Can you go stop that? And then Hale's like, yeah, sure, I guess. And then he goes to Sheridan, Wyoming. The Void. And
Yep.
as even like before they're really able to get into the beating, Hale comes in and is just like, no, and then fucking shoots Noah Grace in the head. And then and then Daedalus is like, haha, sick, and then leaves.
Literally fucking shoots out the top of the containment facility and then just like skirts to his little fucking his flagship, and then they're just like skirt, and just get out of there.
Yeah, Hale killed Grace first, which is kind of ridiculous, and then he was ready to go kill Daedalus, and then Daedalus is like, behold, Biden blast, and then he did a psychic blast.
Yeah.
But yeah, Daedalus flees, gets in his battleship, and fucking levels Sheridan. Just firebombs the shit out of it. Merry Christmas, by the way, because this happened on Christmas in the story. So Hale and the vice president just get out of there, and that's the end of the book.
Yeah. If to people who are listening to this podcast, please read the book first. I already made that war. I know we spoiled a bunch of the shit when I'm saying this, right? But like to the outside viewer listening, this sounds like someone's fucking fanfic. The way we described it, if I'm being honest with you, like that's what it kind of sounds like. The story beats do it, but there's a lot. There's a lot more to this that builds up to literally fucking Hale shooting Noah Grace, which is there's a lot of good shit.
There is,
in between there.
Yeah.
Yes. Said, Grace only shows up. Is only like the Resistance series is a problem with this that will show up in the background lore and then get like a vague mention in the game.
Yeah, like they brought up Grace once in Resistance 2 when they were talking about Chicago getting shut down. He was in an Intel document in Fall of Man, and then he had these election posters up in Resistance 3.
Yeah.
I think it might have had a mention in Burning Skies, I'm not sure. But yeah.
Maybe.
Well, Dietz did co-write Burning Skies, so who knows. But yeah, we must preface, the writer of these books, William Dietz, he's done his own original works, but he's done a handful of tie-in novels or licensed material. He's done like a trilogy of Star Wars books that was back in the 90s. He's done
Halo the Flood.
Halo the Flood, I was about to mention that. His most popular book is Halo the Flood, and not that great of a book from what I hear, but it's one of, like, the Halo books. he's done some StarCraft books, from what I remember, some StarCraft 2 books. He did a Hitman book, which just seems strange to me. And then his most infamous piece of work, Mass Effect, the Desolation, I believe it's called. That's the fourth Mass Effect book that's set during the main trilogy.
Right.
God awful, from what I hear. I haven't read it. I don't think I will read it. But yeah, I hear it's just terrible. Like, he makes an autistic character not autistic. I'm not
autism.
I'm not joking. That's one of the areas where it's like, yeah, this canonically autistic character that's only in the books is no longer autistic.
I see. Okay. To ring it back into
But yeah.
Resistance.
So just to understand, there are some interviews with Dietz that I haven't watched yet, but it does pertain to the Resistance books. And from what I was able to gather from people who have watched those videos, he really just gets funneled information from the devs and writers of the games and goes from there. Like, stuff about Susan Farley that was only previously in that one little letter of the ARG. He expands on that character greatly. Henry Stillman, who's just a radio host, gets his own fucking chapter. Nathan Hale, who's just a blank slate, gets a whole character. And then he expands more on Daedalus.
Yeah.
Yes.
He does a fantastic job of just kind of like giving more depth to much needed characters and creatures like the Chimera. You know, it does a lot to give an actual face to, or just like personality, even to things that probably shouldn't even, like, that you've just been shooting at the entire time, and things been back at you. And it also has like really, really great side characters that like only ever are mentioned in the books, you know? Other than except Love Pond, what's his name?
Yep.
Kaweki.
He has a bunch of OCs that are pretty good and actually kind of likable, and you would love to see more of them. And as we mentioned in Resistance 2, there's one unique...
Purvis was great.
Yeah. There's one unique character model in Resistance 2 in the San Francisco level. A dude with glasses. We have a theory that this is our man Kaweki.
Yep. Basically, Kaweki, for the most part, is part of Hale's background characters when the story is focused on Hale. However, he does play a much greater role in the second book, which we will get to. But like, for the most part, he is portrayed as a important character. However, gets no personality or real description of what he looks like, except a little bit in the beginning of the second book. And his mind is an enigma.
Yeah.
His name just pops up over and over again as like the filler soldier in Hale's team.
Yeah.
And then the second book rolls around. He's a focus character, and the man accomplishes a grand total of zilch, nada.
Yes, we'll get into that once we focused on the second book. But basically, for the listeners of this podcast, just imagine Kaweki as Army Man.
I was about to say he is Army. He is the pure embodiment of Army Man, and so is every other throwawayable soldier character, Sentinel in this story. Unfortunately, but you gotta wonder sometimes why Dietz didn't include Warner, Hawthorne, or Capelli in the Gathering Storm. It might have been just like he might have wanted to, but then the writers and what's his name? The director, former CEO of Insomniac Games, Ted Price.
Ted Price.
Ted and some of the writers might have just been like, nah, just do your own characters.
Right.
Even though Hawthorne and Warner probably were the two characters that really needed some more expansion on their backstory.
Right. But overall, the cast of characters, I mean, we're not going too deep into a lot of the characters, but like overall, characters are pretty good other than the ones that like don't really go anywhere. But we can talk more about that as we roll into the things that we really didn't like about this book.
We have one other character that we need to talk about.
Yes.
Our deuteragonist of the story, Walker. We need to talk about Walker
Ah,
and
yes.
his story.
Yes, that's right.
He is the B plot. And he is rather important to some of the events of this story. So, who would like to talk about Walker? Because I talked about Hale.
I'll talk about Walker.
All right,
so, as I mentioned a little bit earlier in the episode, Henry Walker is the Secretary of War in Noah Grace's cabinet, and if when you begin to read this, you come to realize that him, as well as maybe a few other members in the cabinet, are the only real competent people or sane people of the situation that is at hand, that the United States is facing against the Chimeran threat. More or less, his cabinet is filled with yes man Walker, and maybe a little bit of the
Vice President Harvey McCullen. Yeah,
are the only people that really kind of defy or swat back at Noah Grace's decisions, which are pure lunacy, in my opinion. You can definitely.
Even though he's like very insistent, like it's just an idea. It's one of our plans for the Chimera. Don't worry. It's definitely not the only plan that we have in place. Right. No, sir.
he's very passive aggressive about his it's like we probably not use it. We're just putting this on the table. But anyway, you could describe Henry Walker as like the old guard. Like he's like the guy. It's like we got shit done in the previous administration. All right. And you guys are a bunch of fucking dumbasses, and I'm the only one that can do it. Anyway,
I'm in my third term, and we can't get shit done.
But Henry Walker basically serves as the character that's like gonna spill the beans about what Noah Grace is planning. Like we've described earlier, that Noah Grace's ultimate plan for the United States is to basically like, hey, let's make a deal with Daedalus. Daedalus, the U.S. is gonna like back out of supporting every other part of the world with fighting you off, and in exchange, you just leave the U.S. You can have the rest of the world. U.S. is just gonna be on its own, okay? Deal? And Henry Walker's like, you know how fucking insane that is? Like, you fucking actual dingus.
You troglodyte.
You troglodyte. And
he's
so,
recording all this, too, on a little tape device.
And so basically, Henry Walker's like, all right, woman, pack our shit. We're going to travel to Chicago to give this information to Freedom First. So it works pretty well. Oh, sorry. What did you want to say?
And the reason being is because Freedom First has like a pirate radio system as well. So if it's like, they are against the government, they will obviously broadcast this information around the country. And then we'll be able to turn against Noah Grace. And that's kind of the reason why they decided to go up to Chicago to give it to them.
Yes.
Because they know what to do with it.
His wife is there too.
Yeah, Mira. His good wife, Mira. Poor Mira.
Poor Mira.
We'll get there. Continue.
Yeah. Well, or Walker and his wife meet up with a courier, more or less, for the Freedom First to get them through gray territory to meet up with Freedom First in Chicago. Things go awry when they get captured by Chimeran forces out patrolling for more or less fresh meat, in the sense of like, ooh, we're going to turn you into one of us or nibble upon you, right? So we get to meet a bunch of other refugees along the way. They get captured by the Chimera and more or less get sent to Goblin Town, which is just this old quarry that the Chimera have made into a makeshift conversion center. Now, the conversion process has changed since Resistance Fall of Man, or Retribution. Old conversion centers, which took a process into refining people more or less into, hybrids. The conversion now is just simply turning people into Chimera as fast as they can, which has created the Grims, and replace crawlers with spinners. And this is also a reaction to the events of Retribution, what Grayson did. So the conversion process has been totally changed.
There's also
And
a human.
Yep.
There's also a human mouthpiece for like the chimera, an old
Yes, a
hag, an old
former
woman.
freaking school teacher.
Right.
Miss Trunchbull over here is the mouthpiece.
hmm
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, so basically, yes, she is the person who is the mouthpiece for the human captives. She is still a captive herself. Don't get that wrong. Which
She's
she does get her. She's a bitch,
she's a
as everyone.
tattletailing bitch who gets her comeuppance.
Yes, indeed. Henry Walker loses his wife because she gets taken away because I think one of the other gangs in the pit, I don't know, tattle on her or basically get her in the process of being picked to be converted. And so fucking Henry goes on a killing, not killing spree, but kills the guy that does it. Anyway, an escape plan is made. One guy gets out and gets back to Hale. However, unfortunately, Henry Walker's story ends with him.
Getting
I forget. Does
cocooned.
he get?
You
He
get
does get cocooned.
Yes.
Yes, but the tape is eventually recovered by Hale.
yeah
Yeah,
because
then he has to rummage around in his half-melted remains.
yeah because at one point I believe it's not the Attorney General because that's like the justice system or something. It's
Yeah, I forget who he is or how
Den
he's.
Wheeler. Is it Attorney General Den Wheeler? Let me look up. I'm on the wiki right
Okay.
now. No results. Fuck you. Where is it? William Dentwheeler. Uh, Chief of Staff. So I think it's at one point William Dentwheeler. He's kind of another dickhead who sleeps.
Oh, yeah, he
Yeah.
tortures Hannah.
We'll get there.
Mhm.
He sleeps around with like ambassadors' wives. I'm pretty sure.
Yes,
that's
I
our
remember that now.
introduction to him. That he's a sleaze bag. But yeah, he basically goes to Serpa and is like, so yeah, our Secretary of War has been missing, but we were able to find out where he was because of this refugee that has spoken to him, and he's here at this old mining facility. Now we're gonna send y'all in guns blazing to go
Here's
get him
tanks.
back. And dude,
Here's
this battle was so cool because there were like two Goliaths, and Hale at one point takes command,
Yes.
and he's like, "Fire those pulse cannons at their fucking legs!"
yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
and
by
then
the way,
Serpa actually.
by the way, that's a gun that we failed to bring up last episode. The MP-47
Yes.
pulse cannon.
But yeah, also Serpa is working in joint effort with the U.S. military or the 4th Ranger Battalion, the same battalion
Uh-huh.
that Hale was originally part of.
Oh, they get slaughtered.
They do.
Yep, rip
Yep.
bozos.
I think they also collaborate with them on the mission where they drove stalkers into a Chimeran base to get some nuclear isotopes for the
Right.
fission bomb that they were developing.
Yeah, the Chimera
Yes.
had a nuclear reactor, and
It was
the
full
Furies
of
get
it was
a
full
moment
of Furies, yeah.
there. Mhm.
Yeah.
They
So yeah, is that's kind of it for Walker's story.
Yeah, it's kind of that's a general idea for Walker's story. There is
Yeah.
Daedalus, which we will also touch on
Right.
right now. So yeah, Daedalus is in the story. Before, in like the beginning, it's mentioned that like he was under captivity, but then he got rescued by some Chimeran commandos, and then he got recaptured again by Serpa. And the first chapter we get from his POV is him under captivity. Was it him under captivity, or was it something else? I forget.
Who was under captivity again? I'm sorry.
Daedalus,
I,
aka Jordan Shepard, aka
AKA.
Hot to Face Man.
I forget, but
Game like 4 times.
I forget, but like here we get a general understanding of how Daedalus kind of functions. He's able to peer through the eyes of multiple different chimera throughout the world, maybe even take control of them at will. So he's a very powerful being who's under the command of the pure chimera. He kind of sees humans as the shadow people and just meat bags. and then describes their languages as meat speech. But there's like one person that he doesn't see as a shadow person, and that is his old wife, Hannah Shepherd, who, as we've brought up, as Liz has brought up before, she gets captured by the U.S. government, specifically after our sleazebag William Detweiler comes to her house, tries to look at her ass, and is like, oh yeah, it's all coming together. And then they, like, strip her of her clothes, almost crucify her, and it's like, alright, Daedalus will come here soon. And then he does. He takes her onto, like, a ship, brings her up to a battleship, and then he tries talking to her, and he's like, oh, my naked wife, it's good to see you.
I know exactly where this is going.
And then a VTOL comes up, and then there's a guy there like, Skewer the winged beast! And he launches a fucking harpoon at him.
Well, harpoon, this is my white whale.
And then that's it for Hannah Shepherd, who's there for 2 chapters and is fucking naked. And
also in that same chapter that she gets introduced, there's a guy talking about Meatloaf.
Oh
He's
yeah,
just like,
it starts with a dude who's like in his front lawn, and then like a government car pulls up, and he's like, fuck it, I'm just gonna go eat my wife's meatloaf.
Yeah. The only thing I still have in this bitch of a world with all the rationing going on.
See, now if this was written by Aaron Dembski Bowden, that guy would have died.
Yeah. But he would have been the most crucial, important, well-developed character in the entire book.
Exactly.
Turns out he was like the guy that like ends up shooting Noah Grace. It's described as like a shot rang out and Noah Grace dropped to the ground dead. Everyone is gasping, and then it turns to look. Hale was ready to shoot, but in the background it was actually a Meatloaf guy. That's for rationing my meatloaf, you son of a bitch. That's for rationing my meatloaf, you son of a bitch.
I can only picture him as the groundskeeper at the beginning of Harry Potter the Goblet of Fire, if you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of it for Hannah, and just the general synopsis for Daedalus. We went over the rest of what happens with him. But there are a couple of other bits and pieces here and there, like Dr. Cassie Acklin, who is played by the lovely Katie Sackhoff in the Resistance ARG.
AKA Caprica 6.
And AKA Bo-Katan Kryze in Star Wars. Anyway, her character's here in the book. She has coral-tipped nipples, I guess, as described by Dietz. And her and Hale fuck. They do the deed. That's kind of about it. She also makes...
And then she cries.
She does cry. I think
she cries because she's never going to see him again.
Right. You know, but it's a lot of character development for Hale. I won't lie.
It is. Also, I think... What is it? She makes some grilled cheese at one point? I don't remember.
I think it was like 2 eggs and like some toast or something like that. Like basically, I remember it being like it's just like, she's able to afford eggs, such a rarity in these days of like, you know, fucking rationing. And then like, I think it was just like a chapter before when they met up for the first time. They're both eating fucking cheeseburgers at a diner, which is just like, dude, like if eggs are rare, fucking how rare is the fucking like...
No, I think they explicitly mentioned that it was expensive.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it was really expensive. They also talk about the film industry and that there's not really too many movies coming out now. And yeah, I think they also shower together.
Yeah, real hot, steamy, you know, she rubs oil on his bald head, you know. No, that's joking. But they do take a shower. There is a hot shower scene. Finally.
I wish there was more to say about Cassie's character. She really does shine more in the ARG. And she
Yeah.
does return to the hole in the sky, but she doesn't really get much in that story. So
Yeah, it's not. I'm just glad that like, while she doesn't necessarily get a lot of like actual screen time or anything like that, I'm glad that William Dietz took the time to make characters that have like a greater story, even though not necessarily like getting any kind of like actual video game shine or anything like that. Because like, you know, she could be like a one-off fucking doctor that like, you know, Hale ends up having a fling, you know, to give Hale only like character life. But no, like he actually does like give characters more to shine, you know, and I appreciate that. I think that's like a quality that like I really, really, really fucking appreciate about Willie and Dietz doing. You know, like
Yeah.
it could be a lot worse. You know, we could, like I said, it could just be like a one-off fucking character, which there are. You know, there are one-off characters that just never fucking show up. Looking at you, random Serpa guy that was a part of Echo Team. You know,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep. Random
yeah,
Serpa guy who got shredded by the Fury.
Yeah.
right.
Before we head into our criticisms of the book, there is one chapter that we must address: Chicago.
Yes. There's one specific reason, not for simply as the plot of the
I
story,
think.
but
I think Chicago has to be the craziest chapter in the whole
Yeah,
book.
it was great.
It was
Right.
great,
It's
but at
great,
the
though.
same time, it's like, what the fuck is going on? So, the basic premise of the chapter is Hale and Echo Team are sent in to investigate the whereabouts of Walker because they were told, he was going to see Freedom First because he's a dirty traitor according to the government. And they end up meeting up with Freedom First. There's also, like, a
Right.
dude with a minigun and another dude with a fucking rocket launcher and grenade launcher. They're all...
No, there's the dude, the leader dude, the dude in the resistance who's leading the
dude-
resistance in Chicago.
No,
He's
no,
in a
I'm talking.
wheelchair,
No,
but
no,
he's
no, 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 no. I'm talking about the I'm talking about the Sentinels. How they're all fucking loaded out with everything. We're gonna get to wheelchair guy in a moment.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, our Sentinel
Sorry, my
guys
bad.
are fucking. They got guns and shit.
They got guns and shit.
They got miniguns, they got rocket launchers, they got grenade launchers, they got all this kind of shit. But yeah, they go into the sewers, and they meet up with Freedom First. They meet up with some dudes, and one of them is a girl named Spook, who, like, goes... She's the alt girl that's been mentioned by Phillip. She goes
Yep,
up to, like,
she's-
Hale and starts, like, sniffing him. And,
Yeah,
and
like-
I think it's, like, described by Dietz as, like, Hale gets, like, slightly turned on by this.
Oh yeah.
No, she's sniffing all the sentinels because she has the ability to, like,
Sniff out the virus, I'm pretty sure it was. But, like,
yes.
Hale...
Yes. She can,
But Hale's, like, the unique one, because he's also got pure chimera shit in him, so she's like, oh. She also has a dog, a howler, named Ralph.
yep.
He's got brain
Right.
damage. He a little on the downs, you know. But
He got the Down syndrome, but he all right. We like him.
we love Ralph
He
here in these parts.
What if she's just like, she doesn't see him as like a chimeran form, but she's just like like, you know, those people who are just like, yeah, my dog kind of weird. It's kind of weird. And it's like it's obviously a cat. It's like, yeah, it must be like, they don't bark. They must speak French or
My
something
dog
like
kind
that.
of
It's just-
weird. It's a deer.
yeah.
But yeah, there's also...
I think he's a mastiff.
What, Capelli's dog in the third book? Because it was like...
No.
Just making a
No,
joke.
Ralph. I would
Ralph?
say,
Well, Ralph's a howler.
yes, yeah. No.
What the fuck are we
I
talking
was-
about?
I tried to make a joke and then it. Yeah, sorry.
But yeah, the leader of Freedom First, at least in Chicago, is this dude in a wheelchair, and he dual wields fucking revolvers. Professor X is strapped, dude.
Yes.
And then it's like,
Right.
at one point they have to secure a train station because there's a train with an angel on it being driven by like a steelhead, and then it rolls up, and then they have a firefight, and then the angel reveals itself, and it's like, howdy y'all, Biden blast, and then fucking sends another psychic quake at them, and then Hale's like,
Yes.
you know what? I'm gonna do what I did in Fall of Man and unload like 3 clips worth of ammunition into you.
Yeah. Yeah.
insert fucking YouTube poop of like infinitely fucking shooting the angel. Fucking yeah, like I have to say that's like it was like a really good chapter though, like because it also expands that like, hey, Echo Team's here, but it's also a 10-man squad with nobody you recognize, no
Yeah.
Warner, no
And-
or no Capone.
And half of them die, I'm pretty sure, in the firefight.
Yeah.
Yeah, they get raffle stomped.
Uh,
But
yeah.
the kid's wheelchair guy has machine gunners survive.
Before we get into our criticisms, I'm gonna use the bathroom.
Okay.
Alright.
Alright, talk amongst yourselves. It'll be good content.
It'll be good content. Well,
Alright, Phillip, I saw some good ass daffodils today.
oh shit, you saw some good ass daffodils. Shit, you want to hear about my garden? I fucking
Sure.
harvested my first radishes the other day.
Excellent.
Yeah, we're gonna pickle them. But yeah, fucking we. So those were our like early radishes that we planted, or like our oldest radishes that we planted. We have like an entire radish bed that we planted.
Nice.
And it should be ready in about a week or two, though, which will be fantastic. I think we had over 92 radishes in total come up. So, but we also have lettuce, kale, broccoli, Swiss chard, and
Yo.
peas, I believe. And then we have some assortment of flowers and stuff like that. But like, yeah, like we're gonna. It's fantastic, you know. But yeah, yeah.
What kind of radishes did you plant?
I think they're called. I think the variety specifically, because these are ones that I had like that were left over. Or I let them go to seed and then collected them. But I think their original like strain that they were Easter egg. I believe that's what it is.
Nice.
Yeah,
We'll talk
like
about plants.
yeah,
Yes.
we're talking about plants.
Oh no.
Plants.
Viewers who enjoy plants, welcome. Everybody else, get ready to watch fucking Liam crash out as we talk.
We
for
don't
an hour
have
about fucking
time
plants.
for your radishes, Arthur Morgan. We're an
Radishes.
hour or two into the recording.
No, we're not. We're not gonna fucking. We're not gonna fucking talk more about resistance. We're gonna talk about plants.
We just need time, Arthur, and plants.
There
but
was
yeah.
the freaking exploding plant thingies in Resistance 3.
Yes, there was.
Yeah. We'll have a dedicated episode on those.
Excuse me.
2 hours of the
I'm
exploding
burping.
plants.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, our criticisms of the Gathering Storm. You two, go ahead.
It's kind of all over the place. One of the biggest criticisms I had was that the side plot about the Chimeran technology was just kind of pointless.
Yeah, the great tech.
Yeah.
Well, we kind of figured that it resulted in the fission bomb in Resistance 2.
Right.
And then the Great Tech
Right,
was just
but-
part of like the Spectre team's story that was in the co-op. All that was just for stuff that happened in Resistance 2. So it had its purpose, but like it didn't really affect like the story of that book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was the fucking scene at the beginning.
Yeah, where they're scouting the highway and then they see a mauler, not a marauder, a mauler walking on the highway, and then they get spotted by drones. And then a burrower, burrower shows up, making this the last chronological point where the Burrower shows up. Rest in peace, Burrower. You will be remembered.
I am the Underminer.
Behold the Underminer!
Right.
There's the guy who gets shredded by
Yeah,
the
there's
guy who it's
there's like the
Deets did the really
there's like a
heartbreaking fake out with that guy,
yeah.
the scientist guy who's
Oh.
yeah.
Yeah, there's like
It looks like he's setting up. Oh, this is gonna be Hale's buddy for the. But no, he's fucking dead.
no, he gets cut in half by a chameleon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Rip Bozo.
there's a young kid at the start who gets gunned down by a bunch of drones. Guy gets ripped in half by a chameleon. Also, his girlfriend shows up in that stalker chapter.
Yeah. Captain Nash. Poor Rip Bozo.
Rest in peace, Bozo
Yep.
Nash. You will be missed.
You added nothing to the plot.
Except for Grey
Yeah.
Tech. Just for Hale to look at and be like,
Before time began,
there was the cube. We know not where it comes from.
Literally.
Only that it has the power to upgrade our guns in resistance burning skies. Plays arrival to Earth. Da, 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 da.
Yeah. I think that was probably a pretty big gripe, is that like all it did was kind of like the whole fucking fusion bomb or fission bomb plot, gray tech thing expands over this book, the comics, and Resistance 2, you know, and it's just like a whole big fucking mess that really doesn't go anywhere. And honestly, in my opinion, it could, like, at least for the book in this context, it could have been saved for you know, giving more depth for other characters, you know what I mean?
I feel like
Yep.
like if they really wanted to, they could have done a more canonical story of Spectre Team, like maybe adapt the co-op missions into a book, but then save like that one Grey Tech mission and the fission rod mission for that type of story, or even just save it for the comics, like the Metastasis comic that we'll also go over. I feel like those two chapters could have been for something like that, like two one-off comics that have Hale as the main character, and then everything everything else just kind of fits a little snug with each other. It's just those two chapters stick out like a sore thumb, and for it being like the first handful of chapters at the start of the book that really deals with Hale, it's a little rough. It's a rough beginning, but it really does sort of come together and mellow out, and everything starts piecing together in like the second half. So that's kind of the payoff, where it's like you kind of go through this bumpy road, and then you kind of get to the meat and potatoes after that.
Right. Yeah. And it would be okay if it just went somewhere. That's all I fucking
It's like
I also
care
want to.
about.
it's like it went somewhere in a different piece of media, but you know, like
Yeah, I don't know. It's just every fucking where. Unfortunately, my other real big gripe is that, like, as much as I love the Henry Stillman chapter, I don't think it really added much to the story overall. Then, yeah, I mean, Washington D.C. did get hit, right? But like,
yeah.
it doesn't really.
It was kind of. It would have been good as like a standalone short story.
And it's just another way to show off like Grace's arrogance and cockiness about America's strength against the Chimera, and I think that's really kind of the purpose of it. And I am kind of glad that like Stillman's writer and voice actor, because they're the same person, got to work on that little chapter with Dietz. But yeah, it's kind of like it's a piece of the story where if you take it out, it doesn't really change much. And it's just really there to explain, like, yeah, the government had to relocate to a different state.
It's illustrating that the U.S. is getting whittled away increasingly, and the pace of that is ramping up.
Characters like Kowecki not getting really flushed out fully kind of also kind of was just like, why would you make this character more that like? Why would you put the effort into like putting Kaweki there for basically every other
Yep.
chapter with
Yeah.
Hale, and then not actually adding any kind of depth to him, where
Yeah,
you
it's
did
just
that for just about everybody else? You know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
so
Sorry,
it's
you go
just
ahead.
like yeah, he shows up, or what is Kaweki gets like mentioned in pretty much every mission, but he's basically that one guy who manages not to die.
Yeah, second in
Right.
command, army man is Quicky's role.
But then there's Purvis,
Yeah.
and Purvis is like an actual likable character, who has a personality, and we never see him again once the book ends.
Yeah.
And he's also
Right.
like a pilot.
Yeah.
Right.
That's always fun.
He's a pilot for the VTOL called Party
Yeah,
Girl.
he's a VTOL pilot.
There's also the Marilyn that's at the start of the story. There's Marilyn Monroe on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's our general criticisms of it. When we did the book club, we rated it like a 5 out of 10. A 5 out of 10. It was okay.
review.
Yeah.
I think
Average.
we were like a 5 to 6.
Yeah, I think I rated it about like 5.56, somewhere around there. And by the way, viewers, that is not a bad score. That's just
It's
an
mid.
average book.
Average.
It's
average. We're
mid.
bringing back the real average.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of mid. You know, it's got some good stuff, but
Yeah.
it's got some bad
Yep.
stuff.
It was kind of bloated overall.
Yeah, I think that's about it for the Gathering Storm. Plenty of deepenings in there. In case we must elaborate on that, because we will probably use it as just a general adjective in the future. So, the deepening refers to William Dietz's more interesting touches to the story. Like I said earlier, like
Mm-hmm.
descriptions, character interactions, some dialogue.
Right.
Like, the way that he adapted the Halo Combat Evolved into Halo the Flood, very much a deepening. Very much so.
Very much so, yes.
Here, terms like scabrous, wet farting, hail fucks, the sleazebag, head of state, I forgot, dent wheeler, all deepenings, and that continues in our next book, Resistance: A Hole in the Sky.
Yes. I shall take the reins on the synopsis for this one.
Mm-hmm.
Go for it, man.
So, basically, where A Hole in the Sky begins is not right after Resistance 2. I believe this is set in 1954?
No.
Or 3?
This is right after Resistance 2. Like, a month
so
after
50.
Resistance 2.
So that's what, 52?
Yeah,
No,
53. It goes from 53 to January of 54, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. So right after the events of Resistance 2. And like this, let me tell you guys, you think that, you had some pretty the Chimera are encroaching upon America, but most people could still live their lives within relative ease, right? No, we're Mr. Squidward, I hope you like leather and chain, because the apocalypse is here. The ultimate, relatively, the ultimate Chimeran victory has been accomplished for the most part. America has fallen. Joseph Capelli dishonorably just billions. Yes,
America has fallen. Billions must go underground.
Billions must go underground. Mighty people shall now rise.
Billions must go into pods.
Billions must be. I'm sorry.
Metro Nui has fallen. Billions of bionicles must go into pods.
But yeah, so Capelli is dishonorably discharged from Serpa and is now a courier / delivery guy. That'd be the best way to describe him, right? Yeah. And so he basically has no real goals in life other than just survive, and is also accompanied by two people. Well, not people. One, specifically his dog Rowdy, and two, the dead voice of Hale is pestering him constantly as, like, I guess, like a form of trauma after killing Hale.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So really, Capelli is just simply surviving until he gets a job to take a man to New Haven, Oklahoma, far, far out of range of.
Not
Not
New
New Haven.
New
New
Haven.
Haven's Connecticut.
That's a little
This
too
is just
far, buddy.
Haven.
This is just Haven.
Just Haven, my bad. Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry. I have a trip coming up, and I'm excited about hamburgers.
Yeah,
Um,
boy.
but Haven, which at first Capelli's like, nah, brother, that's a long ass walk and a lot of danger, right? But then motherfucking the guy is just like, look at me pocket right here, and shows him some gold, and he's just like, well, if it's for some gold, then let's go. So basically, Capelli heads out on the road with his dog companion and this guy, which I am forgetting his name, but really his name is not too important, other than the fact that this is the motive to get Capelli to his destination. And through the travels to Haven, Oklahoma, Capelli encounters a slew of the denizens and creatures that now inhabit the American wasteland. This includes a raider traveling circus, which Capelli becomes one of the main attractions in. Cowboys who are murderous and will kill you. Different Chimeran strains from A to Z. That's about it, right? And while the companion that he is getting there does not survive all the way, he does make good on his promise to deliver the gold. And because, Capelli has no better idea, he's not going to go back, right? And he has somewhat of a purpose. So he takes the gold and gives it to Haven. However, there is another side plot to this story. Well, two more. One that follows Susan Farley. Her story did not end, obviously, in Resistance, The Gathering Storm. She got sent to the mines, and the children yearn for the mines. But in this case, women, abused women specifically, unfortunately, Susan Farley, she's now working in a fucking federal prison mine, and a lot of the women there unfortunately are being sexually abused. So if this topic is kind of soft for you people, forewarning, because that does happen, and we are talking about that, so you may want to skip ahead or just deafen. But Susan Farley makes her way out of that situation and is basically on.
Well, how you want to explain how she gets her way out of that? Because it's pretty funny.
So
yep.
So the fucking the warden, or has his eyes now set on Susan as his next plaything, we'll say. And Susan plays into it to get really close, and then does she shoot him in the balls or grab his balls and twist his cock off?
She shoots him in the balls, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, shoots him in the balls, kills him, kills the guards, and she's like, all right, time for girl boss shit, and is trekking across the wasteland, kind of on a parallel with Capelli.
Doesn't she shack up in one of the LDP gun towers at one point?
Yeah, she does.
Yes.
I think she goes up a couple floors or something at like one of the Liberty Defense towers that are now destroyed. We'll get to that point at some point. And she's just coming across like new survival settlements like Tanktown, roaming survivors, and mostly has a not so eventful travel compared to Joseph Capelli. Eventually, they meet up
at Tanktown
and start at Tanktown. She basically, I think, saves him from the circus or something. I don't remember exactly. Something like that along those lines.
Capelli was set up to fight El Diablo, which was a captured steelhead. Although confusingly sometimes has a description of a hybrid, because Dietz just didn't know what the fuck he was writing, I guess. And he actually wins the fight with El Diablo and kills the steelhead, and then the circus guys are like, "Oh, best we can do is just crucify you."
Right. But first,
Ave Hail True to Kaisar, and then just put him up on the highway, crucified, and then Susan was actually in attendance for that fight, and she put down some bets, and she was like, "All right, this is bullshit," and she goes out and takes some pot shots at them. I think she actually manages to shoot one of them. I think she shoots down Capelli, or Capelli gets down himself, but Capelli goes after like the rest of the circus guys and frees the donkeys, as the slaves are called, because they pull the circus cart. Frees them, gets like a gun back, I'm pretty sure, kills a couple of the other circus dudes, and then meets up with Susan, and then the story continues from there.
right, right. And also this is kind of like when they join up, a big pivotal moment happens when Joseph finds out that Susan Farley is in fact Hale's
Sister.
not stepsister,
Foster sister.
adoptive
adopted sister.
Yeah.
Whichever.
And Capelli's like, fuck, small world, huh? Moment. He does the thing where like you point your fingers together when you're kind of like nervous about asking something, and he's like, Susan, and she's like, yes. So I did a little oopsie whoopsie, and I may have blown the brains out of your foster brother. And she's just like,
Oh, all I could imagine.
He was turning into a chimera.
All I can imagine
He
is
was-
the resistance to David Boat Capelli just like twiddling his fingers and just being like, I made a mistake. Ooh woo.
Yeah, I know.
Got his fucking beat
My
hat
roids are
on.
wearing off.
yeah. And basically, I forget how the interaction goes, but I know that Capelli goes to sleep and is just like, well, I'm probably gonna die in my fucking sleep. And then Susan's just like, yeah, I thought about killing you, but water under the bridge, more or less. And so they start traveling together and eventually reach Haven. And
They hold hands at one point when they steal.
they do hold
steal
hands.
a Resistance Fall of Man stalker, because that's the only
Yeah.
one you can actually pilot.
Yeah, so they skirt in that thing for a while, and eventually reach Haven, and they're just like, the people there are like, well, thanks for bringing us the gold. I'm sorry and the lady's like, well, I'm sorry that my brother died, but thank you for doing this. You guys seem like good people. You could possibly join. And Capelli is very incentivized about like, this is really where we see a pivotal moment of like a guy going from, well, I have no purpose in my life other than to survive, to actually seeing some kind of goal, for once in his fucking life, other than just saving his team members. Like he has purpose again, or potential of purpose. So basically, they do a lot of work towards, working in this community to gain their trust, and they do eventually gain their trust. Now, I'm going to stop there for a moment and kind of backtrack a little bit. Now, there is a C plot to this story as well.
Mm-hmm.
The C plot follows what's left of the federal government, led now by President.
I'm sorry. The book even opens with the C plot, technically.
Yeah,
Technically, yes.
Malakoff.
Malakoff and the rest of the government.
Our man
And the rest of
Malakoff, he gets to shoot shit.
He does.
Right. And so basically, where in the opening chapters of the book, we actually get to see one, if not, we don't know for sure, but it's definitely at least an attempt at it's an attempt to basically shut down the New York Tower, destroy it, disable it, whatever, right? You see basically a bunch of different resistance groups joining together to destroy this. This either might be the same or the different one that's described in Resistance 3. We don't know.
In the last episode,
for sure.
In the last episode, we brought this up that it's a little confusing because of certain details in Resistance 3 and what we're given in this book. Could have been two different attempts. Could be the same one. We don't know. But yeah, continue.
And basically, it's a failed attempt, even though they get. I don't think they even get inside the tower, right?
They get inside a little bit. I remember they do actually get inside, because there was like one point where President Thomas Voss. That's a complicated story of itself.
Oh boy, yes it is.
And
Malakoff and Koeki are on like an elevator in the tower, but they don't get very far, and they're like, "Yeah, we're about to get overrun by leapers. We need to get the fuck out of here."
Basically, fucking Princess carries Malakoff out of there.
So,
Oh,
while it was brought up, the current president of the United States is a man named Thomas Voss, who is not on the cabinet in the last book. Apparently, he wasn't even a
right.
fucking character. But the guy who did take over was Harvey McCullen, vice president. According to the book, he was in a helicopter with the rest of the administration, and they got shot down and killed.
They got fucked.
And then temporarily, a unnamed soldier or an unnamed general, though it is implied it was our good old boy MacArthur, temporarily took over as U.S. president, and then he died from a Titan in Phoenix, Arizona. And then, and then
he in fact.
Oh, you.
I was just gonna. He in fact did not have nuclear weapons to fight with this time.
Yeah, no Sea of Cobalt, because apparently the fission bomb and nuclear weapons are a very scarce thing in this timeline. But
Capelli ruined that for them. We'll get there though.
Yeah, we'll get there. But yeah, this guy named Thomas Voss, who I don't remember if the book elaborates on what his position in the government was.
I think he was secretary of. Or no, he was. He was.
Well, the whole.
He was a cabinet member.
Well, the whole cabinet got fucking shot down, so I don't know what the hell he was.
Okay.
He wasn't a secretary. I think he had to have been like.
Hang on.
He was
the assistant. He was
one of the assistants. So it's now upon one of the old cabinet member assistants to lead what's left of the federal government, and then now he's just like
assistant secretary of the interior.
All right.
I see. Okay.
So now he's like, all right, well, try to take down the tower because Malakoff said so, and that didn't really work out.
Right.
So where does So where do these people go, Philip?
So basically, they're mole people. They're living in a cave. I forget which cave. I think it was in. Is it the Arkansas base? Or is that different? No.
It's a base in Arkansas. Let me pull up my map.
Sorry, we have a map. We'll link that in there. It's a pretty cool map, by the way, that Liam's been working on.
Yeah.
Let me pull up my map.
It's
You keep talking.
Anyway, so basically. Yeah, so basically the rest of the federal government's just holed up in a fucking cave, at least one of their bases. Right now, they've got a lab set up trying to synthesize the hail vaccine, or the vaccine that's going to cure the chimeran virus, or people from getting infected with the virus anymore. I think that they've already created it, but they're now in the process of producing it and getting ready to ship it out. And we also get to see a returning character, Cassie. Even though she doesn't necessarily play another major role, she is there. Koeki returns as like the head of the security team for the U.S. president, and was also the first chapter I made add. But yeah, they're kind of just going over there talking to a radio host about like, hey, this is what's up. Get ready to this, like, let people know like, hey, we got us secure, right? However, the real villain of the book is revealed. There is a snake in the motherfucking grass among what's left of the federal government. This woman who is among us. Among us.
No, it's a.
What is it? What is it, Liz?
What is it, boy?
I thought it was a guy.
No, it's a lady.
No, it wasn't the. Oh,
it's a lady.
Okay, yeah. Sorry.
She had okay, so anyway, the real threat of the book is revealed. Judge Ramsey and his American Empire. So basically, you could say this is like a warlord type character who flaunts himself as being like the new real like power of basically reborn, like the new government and the federal government shouldn't be trusted. And he does have like quite a bit of a group of people backing him, and the firepower to do so as well. So what Judge Ramsey has done has planted a spy among the federal government to inform him of all its goings-ons. And so what he is attempting to do is to basically destroy what's left of the federal government and then steal the hail vaccines to be able to distribute to his supporters of the American Empire, which either you join them or you don't get the vaccine. That's the ultimatum, and that's the ultimate goal. Eventually, we get to the point where Judge Ramsey's men attack the base. What's left of the federal government must evac.
It's an Ozark National Forest. That's where it was.
Ozark National Forest. They gotta fucking basically get out of there and head to Freedom Base 2, which is in some kind of dam. I don't know if it's in Oklahoma or in Arkansas again. They're being picked off by Chimera, and eventually they do reach Freedom Base 2. And this is where Kaweki is just like, all right, listen, I'm going to take my men. We're going to hunt down this Judge Ramsey guy and fuck him up. Because if he is still able to persist, then we are not going to survive any longer. So Kaweki, now this is the C plot going out to meet the rest of the plot. Fast forward again. We're back at Haven. They're hanging out. Judge Ramsey is beginning to really kind of stretch his feelers out, trying to gulp up more communities around his community, Tunnel Through, which is a tunnel with a train in it, and is like kind of like the capital. Judge Ramsey's men eventually reach to Haven, and Capelli and other men are just like, nah, fuck you guys. We're good by ourselves. But Judge Ramsey's men are like, we're not taking no for an answer, but we'll leave you alone for now, fuckers. So guess who also shows up? Kaweki and his security team, and like, hey, have you seen some motherfuckers called Judge Ramsey's bullshit? And he recognizes Capelli.
And this is while Capelli and a party of them are away, because they're like, hey, there's a down VTOL in Native American territory that might have some weapons that we can use. And one of the people on the team is
another snake in the grass.
Yeah, he wants to actually join Judge Ramsey and his American
Judge
Empire. Judge Ramsey and his Clydesdale and his American Empire.
Big ass fucking horse.
Yeah, his Clydesdale. Yeah.
Basically, Haven heads out, or members from Haven go talk to the Osage Indians, which is where the cache is.
Indians. Gotta get it right.
Osage is where the crash VTOL is with the weapons cache. And basically, Chimera jump out and like they do a little battle. They split the weapons evenly, but the Osage
are like, we'll help you out. We're good buddies. Yeah, we're on good terms, so we'll help you out in the future if you need any help.
Basically, you get a whole bunch of chapters where it's like both sides are preparing for the ultimate battle between the people who don't want to join the Empire and the people who are joining the Empire. Join the ultimate galactic empire.
Oh, and their ship down.
Oh, yeah. I just thought about that. So, Judge Ramsey...
That was so fucking cool.
Judge Ramsey has this little munitions factory that he works with. Basically, this human community works in a downed Chimeran battleship, and they reverse engineer Chimeran weapons, too, including the very mysterious Bullseye Mark III that never appears in the video games, but in this one book, it's there. And I think it's in the Gathering Storm too. It
causes no shortage of confusion for people.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a community that does exist, and it's pretty neat how there's a human community just hauled up in an old down battleship.
Basically, think of Santa's workshop, but in the wasteland.
Think of Santa's workshop, but they make guns and ammo.
Yeah,
it's a redneck's Christmas. I tell you what.
Just think about it as Santa's workshop, but a munitions plant in a wasteland.
Yep.
And an alien battleship. Yeah.
And an alien battleship.
So yeah, that's one of Judge Ramsey's resources, but. As Philip said, Kaweki does come to Haven on this little journey of connecting the federal government to the communities because they got the hail vaccine and they want to distribute it and they want to know who's out there, and Haven's one of them. So they go out there.
Right.
Capelli comes back from this little trip, and Kaweki's like, "That's the son of a bitch that killed Nathan Hale." And
Yeah.
and he's like, I'll be the one that pulls the trigger. Pulls his gun on fucking
Yeah.
Capelli, ready to shoot his ass. And that's where
Uh-huh.
like that chapter ends. And then the chapter after that opens up with like, was it like the elder of the town just being like, nah, put your fucking weapon down.
Yeah, I think he gets in between them, like was willing to get shot, and just like I think he puts his
Kawaki made his whole vow that he was gonna
kill Capelli.
kill Capelli at the beginning of the book.
I'm pretty sure Susan also makes another vow, but then he's like, nah, he's kind of hot.
Yeah,
Oh.
I like killing Chimera. Do you like killing? Do you like killing Chimera?
You want to hold hands when we're in a stalker?
Also, we also have to make the statement, just like Hale did, Capelli fucks. The Riz is real.
To be fair,
Yes.
it's not as detailed as it was in The Gathering Storm. It was like, they get in a bathtub, they fuck, I guess. And then that's about it. It's like a cutaway gag where it's like, close the door.
They're about to fuck. Nope, you don't get to see it.
Yeah.
It's too hot for this
It's
book.
too
The
hot.
regular sex, the pregnant sex, it's too hot
Yes.
for this book.
Yes.
Right. It's just like I will just make this. Well, actually, no. We'll get into it with the characters. But anyway, let's keep moving. Basically, Capelli's like, "Fuck, we are severely outgunned and outnumbered compared to the American Empire. I have an idea." So earlier in the book, we talked about like how Capelli and Susan found like a stalker depot. Well, he's gonna go kick the hornet's nest and basically draw the stalkers in to fuck up Judge Ramsey's fucking day with a baker's dozen of stalkers.
And
But
there's
Also get one of the best fucking characters in any Resistance
oh my
media.
god, the dude with the bar. Yes.
Mike motherfucking Unver. I think he was like a school teacher before the Chimera fell. He's just like some old guy with a fucking bar gun, and he's just like, all right, I'm coming with you. And Capelli's like, no, you gotta go. And he's like, fine.
Yeah,
But then,
Capelli's
you know,
like really. He's like, dude, you're too old for this. I run faster than you. You won't be able to make it. He's like, all right, fine. But then at the last moment, when it's tight.
No, wait.
What?
Wait. Fuck,
Well, while you're thinking of that,
But yeah, Capelli's getting pursued by a fucking titan, and then Mike Unver with his bar in hand is like, "Get down, Capelli! I'll fight this bastard for you."
and I think he actually,
was a former Sentinel.
He was.
huh? No, I don't think he was. Wait, are we like Mike Unver? I don't think he was. No, I think he was like a school teacher or something like that. He's just an old man who's kicking ass.
Affiliation, Serpa, rank, private species, Sentinel. Holy shit, he was a Sentinel.
The fuck?
No, he wasn't.
Yes, he was.
No.
It says it right here. He
Are
was.
we thinking
No. Shush. He was in Resistance to Gathering Storm, and he was in. Oh, you know what? We might be thinking of a different guy. I don't think he's the guy with the bar. No, wait. Here, hold on. How the factory. When Joseph Capelli arrived in Haven 1953, Unver went on hunting with him. It is unsure whether Unver participated in the first battle of Tunnel Through, but if he did, he survived. He joined Capelli on a mission to lead the Chimera at Blackwell to tunnel through and let the Chimera destroy it and kill Judge Ramsey. But while they were luring the Chimera, they were caught in a firefight. They won the short battle. However, the victory didn't last long as a contingent of 10 stalkers appeared over a hill, in which Unver was then killed by... Yes, we are talking about the same guy. He was also in the previous book. So, yeah, he was a Sentinel, and he is the dude with the bar.
No fucking way. That's wild. Okay.
That is wild.
Then I learned something new. Rip my boy Unver. He pour one out. If you got one, pour one out for our boy Mike Unver, because he is a true. He is a Chad. He is a friend of us. You know, truly a fantastic band.
Oh, he was at the Battle of Bear Butte where they recovered the Grey Tech.
Oh, I see. Okay. Anyway, basically, Capelli leads the stalkers into Tunnel Through to fuck up their day, and Judge Ramsey dies. Kolecki dies, and the
Yeah.
battle and the American
Mhm.
Empire is destroyed. But I will say, on both sides, many losses were had.
Yeah.
And
Ramsey
basically,
tried to escape in a
Yeah,
train.
Ramsey tried to escape on a train because he's like, man, fuck all y'all, went on his train. And then Susan, who's like on a hill, pregnant Susan, by the way, she's pregnant with Jack Capelli, has a sniper
Yep.
rifle, is on a hill, and is trying to snipe his ass. But also, Capelli commandeered a drone, and this is a drone that you can, like, sit inside. And it's even brought up that Hawthorne did this at one point. So he sits his
Yes.
ass in a drone and starts flying after. All I can imagine is like Capelli in this rinky-dink drone, like this small little thing, flying his
Yes.
ass to
ass
the
hanging
train.
out the back of it.
And not gonna lie, this whole train fight is kind of cool.
Basically, it's like Judge Ramsey was like, autism will save the day. Unleash Thomas the Tank Engine.
And then Capelli's like, not if I go into maximum overdrive in the Eggmobile.
But yeah, the Judge Ramsey is killed and the American Empire is toppled. And we end the story or the book on a very somber note of like Capelli's got the girl, he's got the home, he's got a son on the way, but he does think to himself on like what is to become of this world. The kind of like we destroyed one threat that was right in front of us, but like how do we continue to live in this world full of chimera?
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of where it ends.
And the story gets continued in Resistance 3.
Indeed.
So, yeah, that's kind of it. That's the main coverage. We didn't have to go bizarrely crazy like we did with the Gathering Store.
Yeah, that is. I'll get to this point when we talk about like what we liked, what we didn't like. I will say the story flows a lot better. Like,
Yeah, it's
William
much tighter story.
William Dietz did a lot better on doing better on like making the story flow a lot faster, a lot better. Everything's a lot more coherent. All three stories merge together nicely. Or all three plots merged together really nicely.
There's still some crazy things here and there. The incidents,
right.
of course, but yeah. Farting, but yeah.
Oh no, Daedalus is in the voice chat.
No, I'm one of the wet, exploding, farting cocoons. That's at one point in this book. Remember where
everybody look out! The Grim Pods are unleashing. Run!
The menials have this little shack in the middle of nowhere that's full of like Grim Pods, and then Susan's like, you know what? I'm gonna blow that up.
All right, let's kind of like move into some notable characters, right? Let's talk about our main man, Capelli. I know we've talked a lot about him, but let's do a little closer look on him. So Joseph Capelli, completely different person, somewhat. Like I feel like this book is a very nice transition from Resistance 2 Capelli into Resistance 3 Capelli, because if you've only ever played the game, it is a very shock redesign of a character, right? However, A Hole in the Sky does a very good job of easily transitioning Capelli into what we get in Resistance 3 in this book. We get a man from, he's just simply surviving. The only real meager enjoyment he has in his life is being able to relatively afford a nice big juicy steak, has a dog companion, you know. He can get by, even among cutthroats, people who are just looking out for themselves, and then the just general threat of the Chimera, right? He has found a niche in his environment to get by. But we really do see a interesting transition for this character. Like as he's traveling, thinking about this destination that he's going to, he kind of really starts to think about maybe there's something more. Like I have an opportunity to like, you know, be something more. And that thing is being part of a circus, a traveling circus, you know? He loves to be a donkey. He's always felt he wants that purpose, right? And he's like, oh, dude, I cannot wait to fist fight this giant fucking chimera, this steelhead, right? I think that's where really his character really flourishes. When you guys think so?
Yeah.
What the hell, man?
That's a joke, by the way, everybody. If
Yes.
you didn't get it, that's a fucking joke.
I was spacing out. I'm sorry.
Great, Liam. Thanks.
I
yeah,
apologize. When I listen back to the episode, I'm gonna be like, "What the fuck?"
Like, to give people some background, if you're not already familiar with the franchise, Capelli spends Resistance 2 and the Project Abraham promotional materials basically being fucking
Angry man.
roid rage.
Angry man.
He sent a chimera virus induced roid rage.
He
flying
is
off the handle. Like, hell, I'm gonna be the one to pull the trigger when you turn.
Doesn't pull the trigger when he almost turns. But yeah, and I think a lot of that is also brought on from the Chimeran virus itself, but also just kind of treatment from Brass in a lot of, because he's actually, we'll get to this when we get to the comics, but he's actually he's a big softy, for his teammates. He cares a lot about the people that is around him, but he has been hardened by the effects of the Chimeran virus, as well as like the mistreatment from Brass or upper like military.
And it's implied in like an intel doc, I think, that he was trapped in a conversion center and had to cannibalize his own dudes to survive.
Yeah, I think we talked about that previously, I think in the Resistance 2 or like last episode.
Yeah.
But when he meets Susan Farley, it's like he kind of gets a moment of like, oh, well, I'm about to meet my fucking maker, because I just told Hale's adoptive sister or foster sister the truth that I just murdered her fucking brother. I'm literally about to get what karma's about to bite me in the ass. What goes around comes around. But then a surprise when he's not dead, when he wakes up. He gets a chance at redemption, and that's when it really changes for him as a character. He's like, oh my God. The voices, Hale is still there a little bit, but like the voices begin to quiet. He kind of starts to develop a relationship of something that's more meaningful than just like, I don't know, more than just sex. Yeah, they fuck. Let's get it. Let's let the statement say that he does fuck. Let's read back the minutes, please. And then this now town that they're being accepted into is something that's actually genuinely worth fighting for probably the first time in a long time in his life. And that is where we get to finally see the family man we've always wanted to see, Joseph Capelli.
Daddy Capelli.
And Daddy Capelli.
Never say that again.
Faz Daddy.
Yes, Daddy.
Faz Daddy.
But yeah, so like
like we said last episode, the dad lore is gonna go fucking crazy, dude.
Yeah, dad lore's gonna go crazy. Yeah, my dad works for Nintendo.
Daddy!
Well, my dad saved the fucking Earth.
My dad saved the Earth. My dad killed. Yeah, when Jack's being taken away, he's like, Daddy!
Oh, my fucking mitten! My Jimmy Deep sandwich!
Yeah, and then he's like, you left my mitten in New York, Dad? Yeah, right next to the White Claw. Right next to the White Monster, the Jimmy Dean breakfast sandwich, yeah.
Right. If you want to know, if you guys want to know what we're talking about, watch the Resistance 3
Watch my YouTube poops.
Yeah, well, self-insert, anyway.
Self-promotion.
I think Willie Dietz does a fantastic job of, like, a relatively slow burn transition. I would say, like, a natural transition of the character, or transformation of Joseph Capelli. And I think that makes him a fantastic protagonist to play as in Resistance 3, and a well-deserved one. And really, there aren't any real downsides to Hale's character at all. Or not Hale's character. He's dead.
Except as a voice in Capelli's head.
Right.
I
He
can
could be
only
nuts.
I can only imagine
Nuts.
what his voice was like after Capelli fucked his sister. He's like, "You fucked my sister? Yeah, I did." You got a
What if he
problem
just
with
whispers?
that?
What if he just whispers in the ears like,
You better
"It's my fault.
you better not come inside, Capelli.
You better not come inside. It's just like coming in me." And then that just gives fucking like Capelli even more. It's like I always wanted to do that.
He's
I
like,
wanted to
it's like, hold on,
I mean,
let me see if I
Hale
can
was
send a gift.
coming inside Ackland.
Hold on, let me.
Hale raw dog
It's like
that.
this is what Capelli looked like after hearing that. It's a soured face, Patrick.
Oh no! Where's the fucking? Where's that cursed picture of Capelli? Where he's like looking, where he's looking up, where he just got choked out from fucking hail at fucking Bryce Canyon. Where is that? Do you have that on you?
I don't have it, but it's in my original Resistance 2 YouTube poop.
We'll put the image up. That's what he
Yeah,
looks
yeah.
like when he hears fucking hail whisper into his ear.
How about did you guys see Transformers 1?
Yeah, of course, I love it.
Yeah.
Philip
when
has
Starscream is getting choked out by D16.
Is that all you got? Come on!
Usami Scream.
Anyway.
Anyway,
Back to
Usami Scream. Yeah.
I don't think that's. I think that's about it for Joseph's character. There's really
Yeah.
not much to add. So let's move on to Susan Farley. Liam, would you like to take the reins on Susan?
I will. She's a bad.
Would you?
She's a bad
Would
bitch.
you?
She's awesome.
Lore accurate, Susan.
She just like how Capelli will have insane dad lore, she will have insane mom lore. Like almost assassinated the then president of the United States, Noah Grace, ends up going to jail. Starts working in the mines as a child. I yearned for the mines. Shoots a dude in the balls. While she's free, she just kind of camps around wherever she wants. Camped inside of a gun tower, part of the LDP. Then she blew up like a Grim pod farm. I'm pretty sure there was like a little girl present too. I don't remember.
No,
all too
wait.
much.
Koeki and some other dudes who were going on
Oh
like
yeah, you're right. They blew up
up-
the pod farm. Susan was watching this family while she was walking along on the highway. I'm pretty sure.
Oh fuck.
Yeah, there was.
Yeah, I
that,
remember
there
this
was that
now.
detail.
Right.
Yeah, she's just kind of going wherever she wants. She has this freedom. She has this money that she's managed to gather and gambles it at what's the casino in Fallout?
Tanktown.
Tanktown.
No. The Lucky 37, is that what it's
38.
called?
Lucky
38. Yeah, she like gambles it all at the Lucky 38. Mr. House ain't too pleased, but
Yeah.
But yeah, Tanktown is where she goes. But she is kind of the epitome of like the strong, independent female badass girl boss type character, but not like the Hollywood schmuck that we've gotten in the modern day. More like the Ripley type female protagonist.
She is not a Mary Jane.
No, a Mary Sue, not a Mary Jane.
Mary Jane is something else.
She is not a Mary Jane,
Sorry.
most definitely not. But yeah, she's not a Mary Sue. She's definitely more like Ripley from Ellen Ripley from Alien in a way.
Yeah.
Where she can care for herself. She's quite intelligent, very smart. She's got the and in a lot of background lore for her, she's definitely very handy capable with a weapon. She was like one of the best sharpshooters in Sioux Falls, with only Hale being the competition.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
and she learned a shit ton, not only from her growing up on the farm, on her like in on the ranch, but also like from what she learned from Freedom First. So she has
Yeah.
like an actual background of like why and how she got these skills, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's a survivalist, but
Yeah.
um.
Even when she's pregnant, she's still like a
Oh
fucking
yeah,
badass.
she's still a badass, and she becomes like a community leader when they get to Haven.
Mm-hmm.
She's very well involved in the development of that community, and I don't think there's really much else to add to her, because unlike Capelli, who has more of a presence in more media than her, the
Right.
books is kind
She
of where we get
She
most
gets
of her.
nerfed because her son has anime sick boy
Yeah,
disease.
yeah,
he got the TB.
yeah. The books are basically where her character shines, and Boots does a really good job with her. And yes, she
Mm-hmm.
does get nerfed. She becomes a mom, and she has a bit more responsibility. In fact, I'm pretty sure she takes on more of a leadership role for Haven by the events of Resistance 3.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she's very well involved in coordinating the defenses and everything like that. So, yeah, she's still a really cool character. I kind of wish that we did get a bit more, like, if Resistance had more stories or more comics or books or
Side
what
stories.
have you, that she got a bit
Right.
more storytelling. But yeah,
If we got some like, side Freedom First missions that she did, that I think that would be fantastic for her character.
yeah,
But
just
yeah, go ahead.
just
Finish.
a little book about her. But yeah, not really much else to add on to her character other than she's pretty cool, pretty kick ass. There are a handful of other characters like President Voss. He isn't like the greatest character, but he's definitely like a fish out of water where he's like, dude, I was just a cabinet assistant. I'm the president of the United States. I got all these fucking responsibilities. I'm living among stalactites and stalagmites. I don't fucking know what I'm
Yep.
doing.
I am mole people. Hale was right.
Hale was right.
Um,
and Cassie Ackland is with him. And Malakoff. Malakoff is in the books. Yay!
Yep.
He only gets like 5 lines
Yes.
of dialogue.
He's growing
Yay!
vaccines in egg.
yeah. These like really, it's
Yeah, I liked the detail about how they were culturing the vaccine in eggs.
unfortunately, like when we talk the rest about the other characters, really, other than Susan Farley and Joseph Capelli, they take the spotlight for like character development. Everybody else, you get a good general sense of like what they're about and how they're feeling, but they
Yeah.
don't really get too much character development like Susan and Capelli do. For example, like you said, President Voss is very much a fish out of water story. However, he's like doing the best he can in the situation that he's given, right?
Yeah.
He like he is not like necessarily a wimp. He is actually going with his troops to the tower, New York Tower, to attempt to shut it down or destroy it, So it shows that he even though he was basically just an assistant, he has the gumption to be the president, like take up the mantle of it. Malakoff, like you said, literally he is, I feel like more or less he's simply there. He gets like five lines.
Which kind of
It
sucks
does
for
suck.
Malakoff.
Yeah, it very much just sucks for Malakoff because really all the only real character development we get for Malakoff is in Resistance 3, which we already covered in last episode, so we won't go too deeply into that. I mean, it's good that he's here. It kind of gives us a little bit more of a timeline of where he's at between the games. Cassie too really doesn't get much limelight.
No.
I really do think she's just kind of there. She gets more character.
She's a fine piece of ass for Voss to look at, kind of.
I think she just gets him coffee.
Voss
I'm pretty
is a decent fellow, and he doesn't try it. He's like,
yeah, she's pretty and all, but I don't know.
yeah.
I got a job. I got a job
like,
to
I
do.
can
We all got
tell she's-
jobs to do.
All right. What we lost, I think, a little bit is just like we could have gotten more like character development, but I think it went to a benefit of just smoothing out the stories, keeping the pacing for the book, so we didn't have these long, drawn out shit for characters. I'm glad that they're there. I'm glad that every character that in this book, except motherfucking Kaweki, like has a place in this book. Well, I mean, he does. Kaweki does have a place in this book,
Yeah.
yes.
He,
But
he,
like,
he,
Yeah.
he mostly takes on like almost the main character role for that part of the story, but I don't mind having some one-note characters for like the C plot, essentially. I think it's fine because you're really here for like Capelli, and yeah, you're mostly here to see what Capelli's story is like. But Susan is kind of like the little extra bonus where it's like, she's also a really cool character. I'd love to follow her story along. And then there's the C plot where it's like, kind of.
We're kind of catching. We're kind of like they're basically like catching all the other little plot details that like can't be fit into A and B, like the hail vaccine. Like they're the back. They're basically filling in the background information. Here's how the hail vaccine got spread out. Here's how like the American Empire, like basically they're setting up the villain for the plot, or the main villain for the plot. And they also.
Yeah, those are like the
two.
Those are like the two driving forces for that part of the plot. Is like, setting up the villain and then the hail vaccine, and everything else is kind of like, it's there. Like I think one of the cooler chapters with them, aside from trying to take on the tower, is when they're moving along in this big group, and they start to get like encircled by howlers, and that spy lady that they had that defected to their side ends up getting mauled to death by one of the howlers. And
rip Bozo.
Malakoff is there, and he's just like, well, she's dead anyway.
That sucks.
That sucks anyway.
Should have been at sheriff, or what's the fucking town that he defended? Sheriff
Karachev.
Should have been at Karachev.
I like how you defaulted Chernoff.
Chernoff, I'm sorry.
Like,
I've been playing
the fucking flag bearer from World at War.
No one will read this.
Nobody will read this. Somebody should read this.
I changed my mind.
I changed
my mind.
And then he reads part of it at like the next level.
Oh my god, Liam, put in a World at War meme right now. In this economy,
Miller, throw it back.
I stick by my opinion that if we ever get another Resistance game, it should be about younger Malikov fighting his way through Europe.
Yes, that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's my opinion. Because you don't.
Yeah, we brought it up. Like,
anyway,
his backstory is a little complicated. There's a few like contradictions here and there, but yeah, that'd be cool to have like Malakoff during his days in Russia, or maybe like an anthology type game or book. Anything.
Insomniac, this is a cry for help.
But yeah, even like Judge Ramsey, our main villain, he does have some like traits to him. He's very I think the first time that we really get to know him is like when they're on their way back to the American Empire's railroad base, and like one of their guys was like wounded during the fight, and he like does like this kind of honorable send off for his humble troops. For the humble troop who's dying away, bleeding out into the river. But then it's like he's also he has his favorites. He definitely has his like top lieutenants, and he cares more for like his closest soldiers than he does for the people under his protection. Even though he preaches to them like do not worry, my fellow citizens. We got enough of the hail vaccine to protect you all. However, a big ol' however is like right there, and he's like, me and my fellow guys will get the vaccine first, and then maybe we'll give you the vaccine. Just don't know when. Maybe next Tuesday. You don't know. And then goodbye. And then he goes back in his train car.
And then fucking grimified JFK Jr. Walker shows up. It's It's untested. I don't think it's gonna give you autism. I don't think we should
Oh
do
my
it.
god, Philip, I just thought about, like, one of the citizens being like, but Judge Ramsey, I would like the hail vaccine, and then him looking to, like, top lieutenant, grimify his ass.
Grimify his ass.
And they like send some like spinners after him, and they cocoon his ass.
Yeah.
Lieutenant,
Fuck it.
grimify him.
Grimify
Sergeant,
him.
slap his balls. Yes, Commissar, with or without shovel.
Slap his pee-pee, Lieutenant.
Okay. To keep it rolling, do we have any other thoughts about characters, real quick, before we move on to just like the finishing thoughts of like what's good, what's bad?
Not too much. I think we kind of covered pretty much it. Kawiki is definitely a character that in our previous conversations over like the past couple of years, definitely a character that should have gone a bit more than what he was given. Seemed like a very interesting character. He was there for like a lot, but yeah, one note type of character. Definitely believe he's the dude with glasses. Definitely believe that. Yeah. Also, if any of you can figure out who the fuck Echo 4 is, we would love to know, because, fun fact, Hale is Echo 1, Warner's Echo 2, Hawthorne's Echo 3, and Capelli's Echo 5. So who the heck is Echo 4?
It's quirky.
It's
easy.
It's definitely Koeki. He was off on his own. It's like
Yep.
it's like Koeki's story during Resistance 2, and then it's like I don't know, the plot for Half-Life 2, I guess.
Yeah. It's just like the main plot. Hale's just like, oh no, Capelli stole my fork. The fucking Koeki subplot has him battling the worst of the worst.
The main Phineas and Ferb plot. It's like, we're gonna build this like really kick-ass roller coaster, the Perry the Platypus subplot, and he's like blowing up the moon or something.
Yeah. But yeah. So I know we've kind of like said a little bit of like what it did well. I guess, in my opinion, a lot of different things. Better character development, I think. Better streamlining the story, making sure everything kind of went somewhere. The plots all converged at a good point and transitioned in together very smoothly. And I think it just overall general, there wasn't any kind of wasted time like there was with like the Gray Tech / Fission storyline, and with Captain Nash and the little Henry Stillman insert chapter.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what it did really well. I really, really like the inclusion of just like little details. If you were paying attention from book 1 to book 2, there was a few characters that came back in, like Mike Unver from the Captain Nash chapter, and then again, very small character. If you're not watching very closely, you'll forget about it. But so like there was when they took the stalkers in to go steal the fission rods. There was a character with them called Yarbo. He is also present in the first chapter of a hole in the sky, who was part of the men that went to
I remember this.
Yeah.
to go assault the tower. So you got like reoccurring characters, even though it's very, very, very small. But it's such a nice attention to detail that makes this world feel a little bit more alive, you know? And I think that goes a long way into like making this a very good story. That's something that like really raised the bar higher than the previous book, in my opinion. And I rated it much higher. I think I rated this book like, I want to say like close to an 8.
We did
Or around 8. At an 8 out of 10.
I think we rated it like an average 7 out of 10. I think that's what we kind of concluded.
Oh, okay.
But
Yeah.
it's definitely a really good book. A good quality book. Like you said, there's not a lot of issues with this one. And until we read like Dietz's original works, I think this one's probably one of his more solid stories that we've read so far. Until we read more, even some of his like other adaptive material, like his Mass Effect book, Oh dear lord. The one Hitman book that he wrote. I don't even think we're really gonna read the StarCraft books, because StarCraft is like way beyond me. The original Star Wars books, which is kind of hard to find nowadays, they're really obscure. And all of his
Right.
original shit. This is one of his best works that we've read so far. Liz, any thoughts?
Yeah, it's definitely a nice, good improvement over the Gathering Storm. The evil post-apocalyptic circus was definitely stretching. Was definitely a stretch. Like, how
Yeah.
are they?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
we captured this steelhead by stunning it. Bitch, how? Stunning doesn't work on the Chimera. Like I said, I'm salty about the whole Koeki thing. I would have rather have had Purvis, the VTOL pilot, show up because he actually had a personality in the first book.
I would have liked to
Mhm.
have seen Ellis be Purvis in Resistance 3. I think that would have been a neat little connection.
That would have been nice.
I know we've talked about that before in the past, like, Ellis
Mhm.
should have been Purvis. But yeah.
Or we could have seen
Um,
Charlie or something.
Yeah,
yeah, there's some great world building.
yeah, the Remnants are. I think the Remnants should get their own little comic series or little book or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Like
definitely.
almost kind of like a lighthearted type adventure.
Yeah,
Like kind of.
like their formation and all that,
Mm,
especially to flesh out on some of like the extra characters in the group. Because in the last
right.
episode, we talked about the like Allie Hills' character is just kind of there. She kind of flirts with Capelli a little bit. Then there's a couple of other
Right.
characters that get like killed off or are just kind of there in the background. But Charlie and Ellis are really the only two characters of the Remnants who get
Right.
any sort of development or screen time. Charlie gets the most development because we're literally told his backstory by one of the teammates. But yeah, I think there's plenty of room for stuff that's already established in the games, like characters like Warner and Hawthorne, and obviously the Remnant, that should get some more time in the spotlight one way or another. Not a whole game dedicated, but like a little comic mini series or like a novella or something like that. Just to tide fans over in this dry wasteland. So,
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
so if we're done with this, we can move on to the comics. If you
Oh
want.
Right.
boy.
This
So,
one will be a little bit of a shorter one, but it's
yeah.
still quite a talking point.
So, yeah. It is my turn. The Resistance comics are a little complicated because technically there are two writers. The first comic, dubbed Issue 0, it came bundled in with the collector's edition of Resistance 2. You could view it on the digital disc, or the disc that came with it. And that's how you could read it for quite a while until it was packed in with like the omnibus of sorts that was released a little later down the line, which I found out there's a hardcover for.
Nice.
I'm gonna go on the hunt for that. But anyway, the first story was written by the one, the only, Dan Abnett.
The boy, it's our boy.
In case you don't know who Dan Abnett is, we brought him up before, but this is the first time we're going to elaborate. He is one of the writers for Warhammer 40k and Warhammer Fantasy. And he has a bunch of his own original science fiction works as well. And he's worked on a bunch
Right.
of other franchises, I'm pretty sure. Resistance being one of them. Issue 0
Yes.
is the Daedalus Origins comic, essentially, and we'll get into the details of that a little later. And then we have the main series, published by Wildstorm. And it was written by the more amateur writer at the time, Mike Koska, who did some work on the G.I. Joe series a bit before. If you've read Marvel Comics, you might know the name because he also did a run for Venom at one point, and a bunch of other Marvel works as well. So he's been around the block for over a decade now, I would say. But Resistance was one of his first and one of his most notable works outside of Marvel. And I forget who the artists were, forgive me. But yeah, Mike is usually like the guy that we pretty much credit here. But he did the main series, and then he did the Retribution prequel comic, which I'm pretty sure released as its own separate issue. Wasn't packed in with any collector's editions or anything, but yeah. There aren't that many comics. The issues separated as their own things actually go for pretty cheap on eBay from what I've seen. Like, $10 is like the average price I've seen. Maybe a little lower for the individual issues.
Right. I will definitely say get them while you can, because they are finite.
They are definitely finite. You can also get the collected edition for like $20 to $30, I'm pretty sure, on Amazon. And I think there are definitely like a good amount of those in stock because not a lot of people know what Resistance is. Hey, but at least it's not as expensive as the omnibus for Infamous, which goes for like $100. As much as I really want to read the Infamous comics, I don't know if spending $100.
I tried to find some of the IDW Transformers comics.
Yeah, I hear some of them aren't that great, but there's some really good ones in that IDW run. Anyway, the Dan Abnett comic is Daedalus's origin story. It's set during the events of Project Abraham. If you've seen the ARG, Daedalus was separated from that and given his own story here. He, like Hale, was inoculated with pure chimera DNA, or at least a tampered strain of it that Malakoff was working on to see what the effects were. But as it turns out, as told in the comic, Daedalus was immunocompromised. He lived in a very rough environment out in like the swamps of the South and in Florida, I think. And he had an abusive father. His mother died when he was kind of young. And at one point he tried running away from his dad and ended up in a what's the term called, Philip? Like a
orphanage, boarding house?
No, the radiated place.
Oh, waste dump.
Oh, radioactive waste dump. Yeah. Why do I keep fucking forgetting that?
I don't think it was radioactive. Wasn't it?
It
like
was
a chemical dump.
Toxic waste dump.
Yeah, it was
Superfund site.
It was a toxic waste dump that he went into, but regardless, there were people in fucking chem suits there, so it was very toxic for him.
Gotcha.
And he did get medical treatment, but it still had some lasting effects on him. The money that the government gave for compensation went to his dad, and it was just spent on drinking money, and his dad eventually died. Shepard met Hannah. They got married. Wasn't fucking Shepard a traveling Bible salesman? Was that his job?
Yeah, he was very like religiously devout, kind of.
Yeah.
Which was his big thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was also like from his father. His father was a big God worshipping guy.
Right.
At one point, Shepard came home from one of his like trips that he went around Florida. By the way, I tried looking up those counties that was stated in the comic. Could not find them.
So they're just made up.
Probably, or maybe they just don't exist anymore. I don't know.
That could also be true. I don't know.
I don't know what Dan Abbott was on when he was writing
I don't know.
He also co-wrote it, but I don't remember who the co-writer was. But anyway, he comes home and he finds like his wife is with another guy, but the other guy is like innocently comforting her, just being friendly, but Shepard's like, "Oh no, not my woman," and has like his father's rage come out of him, and I'm pretty sure he like kills the guy or beats him up really bad or wounds him. Anyway, he takes his rage out on the guy, and then he's like goes to church. He's like praying to God, like fucking what's his face in Spider-Man 3 when he's like, "God, I need you to kill Spider-Man" or something.
Oh yeah.
Eddie Brock, yeah. So then he's like, you know what? I'm gonna go sign up for the military because Hannah and I can't conceive a child. Blah blah blah. Wait, no. she did conceive a child. Then she had a miscarriage.
She miscarried.
She had a miscarriage, yeah. Eventually, Shepard's like, you know what? I'm going to go sign up for the military. Now, there's a little error in the comic that says that they were aware of what was happening over in Europe, but according to Fall of Man, everything about the war was being censored by the U.S. government, so that doesn't make sense. And I think the games are more canon than any of the other tie-in media, so... While he's at like a military base, he sees that an ad for volunteers for Project Abraham, which yeah, not so secretive, huh?
Right.
So he signs up for it, and he lied about being immunocompromised, and now he's being transformed into Daedalus. And that's where the comic ends, as we get to see a very grotesque, mutated spine of some sort coming out of his crotch or something, I don't know. The main comics are the Chimera somehow have already built a battleship way before the battleships were being built in Retribution. But it's just like one battleship. And I think we like theorized that it might have just been like a prototype battleship. I think the actual reason is because Mike and the artist just didn't know what the fuck they were doing.
Yeah, like the best way we could explain it away is that it was being like either a prototype ship or precursor ship, like a ship that was already there and they just dug it up, because the design of this ship is completely different from what you see in Resistant 2.
Yeah, it's more jagged. It's kind of like Daedalus's flagship, but not really. It's sort of a continuity error that we have a battleship already. But the Chimera have apparently frozen enough of the North Pole that an ice bridge between Russia and Alaska has been made. Which, actually does happen IRL in like one part with a few islands. Here, the Chimera are now able to enter into North America with a battleship and with a whole army crossing over to this ice bridge. But up north is Anchorage, Alaska, where apparently Dr. J. Robert Oppenheimer is at. And in this timeline, we discussed it in episode 1, there is no World War II that ever happens. The need for the atomic bomb is very little. However, the fission bomb or atomic weapons has been sort of in development, and one bomb has been made. And Oppenheimer is the only one with the knowledge on how to make it. So, Capelli, Warner, and a handful of other Sentinels are tasked with getting Oppenheimer back and bringing him to the mainland so that they still have the information they need to build another bomb as another major defense against the Chimera. This does not go well, because on their way there, their transport ship gets attacked by a Kraken, and one of the guys ends up dying when they also get attacked by chameleons when they reach land.
It was one of the only surviving sailors, the non like inoculated guy, or well, Sentinel guy.
Yeah. Once when they do reach the base, they encounter like leapers of some kind, and I'm pretty sure that there's also like a handful of hybrids that are also there. They're just piled on top of each other. But they do reach Oppenheimer at one point. I'm pretty sure that it's like one piece of dialogue, I think, aboard the ship. Or a little later, Capelli does bring up like Hale and Cassie and like I don't know what type of like dialogue box it's called, but it's like the internal dialogue, just kind of thinking to himself about it. So
thought bubble.
Yeah, so Hale does show up in the comics in one panel, and he it looks a little weird, but Cassie also looks drugged the fuck out. But
right.
Yeah, they get to Oppenheimer and they're trying to escape, and as it turns out, well, they also need to secure the bomb too, and the bomb is strapped to a fucking Titan.
This is also a very comedic panel as well. When they deal with it, they stab it in the dick. Yeah, I kid you not.
They say they have the same soft parts as humans because they were once human, even though the Chimera don't have reproductive organs and don't have dicks.
Yeah.
So me thinks that it's just soft.
Me thinks.
Which led to a lot of confusion on the server, and I'm just like, no, they don't fuck. The only things that fuck are the leapers and the howlers and all the other animals.
Like a porpoise.
We've seen the hybrids naked before. They got nothing under there.
They do have pants though.
They do got pants. They do got trousers.
They do got pants.
Except for the commando hybrids who don't have pants.
They just free balling it. That's all.
They are with their no balls. It's just completely smooth under there.
The smooth dome.
Yep.
Insert Patrick
Smooth
grabbing
brain.
SpongeBob's underneath. You know.
Yeah.
Can you reproduce by budding? Can you?
But yeah. Anyway, Oppenheimer ends up dying at one point in the story, but they still manage to secure the bomb, and there's this confusing segment, ladies and gentlemen and other peeps, where they get into a tank, and then the battleship either collides with them or they somehow end up in the battleship. It's never really clear what the fuck happens, and their commanding officer is just like, get the fuck out of here, drive the tank out of the ship, I'm gonna blow up the nuke and take down not only the battleship but also the ice bridge. And so they're like, I bet. And then they drive the tank out of the ship, and then it happens. The bomb goes off. And Capelli gets reprimanded for this, and then he ends up punching his interrogator in the face. He gets court-martialed and then gets demoted. And that's it for the main comics. There's the Retribution one, which is just basically, here's the James Grayson backstory and the backstory for his brother.
Yeah, it really doesn't add a lot that we don't already know.
Yeah, it should also be noted that comic Capelli looks nothing like game Capelli.
He looks more like his Resistance 3 version, which I wouldn't doubt if the Resistance 3 devs looked at the comics and was like, you know, that's a cool design for Capelli.
Right.
That's fair.
But yeah, the Retribution comic really just only covers the backstory for Grayson and his brother, kind of their occupations before and during the Chimeran War, the Chimera's invasion of London. We also get flamethrower wristbands on some of the hybrids.
Yeah. Which is kind of an interesting design, I won't lie, but obviously it's never seen in the games.
Yeah, unfortunately. It's pretty cool. It's just kind of a basic prequel comic, nothing much to add on it. I'm definitely not remembering that comic, but So, I know that you two, I know that when we covered it in our book club, I was a little bit more lenient on it in my rating, but you two definitely teared it a new asshole, so why don't you two go ahead? Why don't you two go ahead?
Well, Fawn, do you want to take the lead on this one and I'll follow?
I mean, Capelli's storyline was just kind of nonsensical, especially towards the end, with the fucking tank that survives plummeting God knows how.
Listen,
God knows how long.
If they can do it in A-Team, then they can surely do it in this comic.
Look,
okay?
it's the fictional M12 Sabretooth. It can withstand anything.
The art is just I don't really know where to begin with the art.
Yeah, that was one of our big criticisms for it.
It's super scribbly and not in a good way. And no, I know it's weird to use this turn of phrase talking about comic, but the characters are just not staying on model from one page to the next.
The artwork is inconsistent.
Yeah. One thing that really stands out to me is the page of the Shepherd / Daedalus comics that shows him mutating, and it's just it should be this really grotesque scene. But it's what the hell am I looking at here? So his arm is turned into an octopus tentacle. Maybe. In Metastasis comic, Hale's face doesn't stay consistent from one panel to the next.
Oh yeah, I forgot to talk about the Metastasis comic. Can I do that real quick?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, so there was this other ARG thing that they did that's not part of Project Abraham, but as it progressed, you would unlock all these different comic pages that you can read on the wiki for free. It's for free. You can take ducks. Oh, they're for free. But it's basically just the beginning is like a town gets fucking attacked by some chimera. And it's not really that important. What's important is setting up these characters that are getting put together for a team that's being led by Nathan Hale, and they have to recover something from this scientist who's been captured by the chimera. And they head into this town, and they eventually find him in like a cocoon. That's like he isn't like as quickly changed as like Mira was in the Gathering Storm, but he's getting there. He kind of looks zombie-like, almost like the half-digested dude in Deep Blue. Yeah, he's like, oh, I still got this serum. Here, take this. It's not safe to go alone. Here, have this.
It's just a random fucking hypodermic.
It is. And Hale's like, all right, we got what we need. Burn the place down.
Yeah,
And-
he ends up getting both of those guys killed too.
Yeah, the team that he got, only Hale's the guy who survives. And at the end of the day, he's just like, oh, well, they're dead, but at least I got the hypodermic.
Yeah. Finally, my or my heroin addiction can continue.
I really don't know what the fuck that thing was. I don't remember. Maybe it had something to do with the inhibitor treatments. I don't know.
Yes, it was the new series of inhibitor. So it's crucial to the continuance of the Sentinel project.
But it's really just a kind of throwaway thing. It wasn't included in the collection, so you'll probably miss it. But like when you're going through the wiki, it'll be like, oh, cool, a free little comic. But anyway, continue.
My biggest gripe with it is like inconsistency in art, like Love Pond talked about, but also very much like inconsistent on just like things being placed into this time when they're not supposed to even be there. My biggest issue is like I think like spinners being at this base when this is like 1950, right? So before the events of the first game. So, like, they're totally way too early in this timeline. The ship design. Now, we could say that it's, like, either a prototype ship or possibly, like, a precursor ship. We don't know, right? But, like, total different art design, right? Stuff done with Grayson. If there is one panel where I think it's like, I can't remember if it's Grayson himself or if it's Grayson's brothers on a VTOL with Rachel Parker. The VTOL is just a Osprey, like a modern day Osprey. It's not actually in-universe VTOL Kingfisher or whatever the other one was. So it's like a completely like fucking, just not paying attention. And I think that was like my biggest real fucking gripe with that. Was there something about the story that I didn't really like? Yeah,
one of the weird things is that they're killing the fucking cocoons inside the base with acid gas.
Oh, yeah.
That Oppenheimer makes. Oppenheimer is a nuclear physicist, not a chemist.
You know, you're right about that.
It's really weird. Oh, and the Kraken!
He is science.
Is a giant sea kaiju.
He is science man. He will make science and make burn.
Science man, active.
Well, the Kraken is pretty big anyway. Like, I know that in Resistance 2 it looks a little smaller, but then in Resistance 3 it's like this huge behemoth of a creature. And it was based on, like, the concept art for Fall of Man, I'm pretty sure. The Kraken of the comic.
I will say, though, this comic does do a good job to give a lot more depth to Capelli.
Okay, that's fair. The one in Resistance 3 is pretty big.
Yeah, it's massive.
Like Capelli, like you actually
the one
get to see
in
that,
Resistance 2 is not mature yet.
Right. But like you actually get to see that like Capelli is actually like somebody who actually cares about his men. He's not just completely a jackass, you know. He like cares about his men. That's what he cares about. And I think that's an interesting piece. I'm also glad that we also had an inclusion with Warner, so we know a little bit more about Warner's backstory a little bit, or at least what he was involved in. Mm-hmm. Also, there was technically 3 survivors of this mission. There was Warner, Capelli, and I think a guy named Abel, I believe. Like, I forget his name, but there's a survivor, a third survivor, which technically means that there's another survivor of Project Abraham running around out there, possibly still alive. So
Nah, he did.
they probably did, yeah. But also, I do have to give props to like Capelli. He kind of did save America's ass, like at least preventing the invasion of America by like what, a couple years.
By like a year or so, yeah.
Yeah.
I forget which year. I think it's either 1950 or early 1951, but he did like postpone him by a good margin.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when
So
it's kind of like when Shepard postpones the Reaper War by destroying the Batarian relay.
right. So like W in the chat for Capelli, but also L for Capelli for getting basically like demoted.
And W in the chat for fucking Commander Shepard for making the Batarians more isolationist. I know that me and my human homies love that. Yeah.
For real, for real.
Oh yeah, another thing. The covers of the Resistance comics have basically nothing to do.
Yeah. Like
Yeah,
there's a
with
guy.
the content.
Yeah, there's a guy wielding a minigun in one of them in front of an American flag. That doesn't happen. There's one of like Hale's face, like halved with a hybrid. That Hale doesn't show up in that. There's one of like guys in like brown gear on like a brown ground. That doesn't happen. There's one with like an advanced
A
hybrid.
cloven.
Yeah, that doesn't happen. There's one with like there's one with like
once again the cloven. Nothing burgering.
Then there's a cover with like an advanced hybrid PNG from Resistance 2 and a Goliath behind him. That doesn't happen. Very misleading. Is it all for the comics?
Yeah, at least that's for me. Overall, we kind of rated them very low. So, like, I mean, if you guys still want to check, I definitely think that people should check them out. I think there are free versions online, but like, if you want to, like, if you're a collector of Resistance stuff, definitely worth your while, though. You know, but don't expect just try not to think too hard about the inconsistencies. Just enjoy your time.
Yeah, even when I read it for the first time, it's like, oh, what a neat adventure. And then, I became the lore guy, and I was like, this comic's fucked.
Yep.
But,
yeah.
It is a little neat, a little piece of Resistance history, just kind of shows that Sony really went all in with trying to make Resistance their next big flagship franchise that will most definitely rival Halo for years to come, much like Killzone too. Hey guys, you remember Killzone? I remember Killzone. Killzone was neat. You remember Resistance?
Yeah.
I love Resistance. Resistance was neat. You remember Halo? Yeah, I remember Halo. They're not gonna get a new game anytime soon.
It's I think the best thing that it adds is that it gives a little bit more to the timeline of like events and like adds a little bit more to like characters like Capelli, it's just like Capelli's not like just fully a jackass. He's mean because he just cares about like his team surviving, and that's really an important character trait that you should understand about Capelli, but also about like why he's kind of an ass towards authority,
It just really sucks that it's like you have 2 books and you have a bunch of comics. You obviously have avenues where you can expand more on the universe, and you just don't.
Yeah. Also, for readers and listeners and stuff like that, this is the time period when Sony was just like, Resistance is gonna be the next big fucking. This is gonna be the Halo.
That.
Oh, you did? I'm so sorry.
That's
I guess
what
I
my previous did. How many times are we gonna do this, Phillip? Where I like go over this and you're like, "Hey guys, guess what?"
a thousand times.
Every episode, it's gonna be like this, right? Just imagine the Batman episode where I talk about Batman Beyond, and then you're like, "Hey guys, Batman Beyond." Am I right?
Yeah. But yeah. So.
But yeah, they were really trying to make it like a huge selling point for them. And there is still room for the series. And there's always a little tickling of the balls every now and then, not just from
Yep.
PlayStation, but also
Guys, remember?
from Insomniac. I know that Insomniac doesn't have the rights for the franchise anymore. That's Sony's, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's like you have it. You can do anything you want with it. Remasters, remakes, no remakes, please, but remasters, books, comics, more action figures. You could do anything you want. You can make a 1/6 figure, and I'd buy that shit up. Please, God, make a 1/6 Nathan Hale figure. That'd be fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, if they do
Cartwright figure that goes in the jar.
if they do a
Rachel
remake
Parker jar figure.
exclusive free order, the deluxe edition that costs $120.
The artisan edition
doesn't come with a game. But if we get a remake of Resistance, we could finally get lore accurate Malakoff, who's like super fucking buff, and just is just like, do not worry, Nathan. I defended Karachev for 60 years, so I've got this, and just like it's blasting through motherfuckers with his fucking with his lore accurate Rossmore shotgun.
He like before him he like becomes this like muscled up dude, and he's like nano machine son.
No. Vodka cut with tank fuel.
I think that's kind of it. We're about almost 3 hours in. Obviously not enough time to cover Retribution and Burning Skies. We're gonna save that for another day, but instead of doing a part 4, we'll probably keep Retribution and Burning Skies for an episode a little later down the line, if that's okay with you, Philip.
That sounds good to me. This will give us an opportunity to talk a little bit more about Resist.
Anticipation.
We will get to talk about something else other than Resistance, because I'm sure you guys are very tired of us talking about Resistance. But we only do this because, simply it is something that bonded all three of us together and brought us together and inspired a lot of these projects. So it's just something we're very passionate about. But next episode, I don't know what it's going to be about, but it's going to be about another passionate topic of.
Do you want to spin a wheel?
Spin a wheel.
Let me do a wheel.
Spin a wheel. Spin a wheel.
Wheel of names. All right, now let me get my list. All right, we got a variety of topics we have here on the wheel.
Ooh.
So let's click to spin. Let's see which one we will cover next. Ooh! Bethesda.
Oh, boy.
Oh, no.
Co-hosted by Philip and I.
Huzzah, huzzah.
Oh, no. Todd Howard.
You just start seeing the visions of Todd Howard start to fade in.
Todd Howard is fucking cocaine.
Oh, Philip, you haven't played my hit game, Elder Scrolls Skyrim?
I have.
Yeah, it's like you're the last holdout. It's free. See, I got a copy right for you. And I'm not going to leave until you've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yes, we are about to remaster it for the 10th time.
We're going to get our remaster.
Or re-release it. My bad.
I can't believe we're going to get a remaster of Oblivion and a remaster of Fallout 3 is on the table right now.
Yeah, man, it's fucking fantastic. But again, we can save this discussion for later because this is cool. This is dragging on, and I'm sure we're boring the audience. So, thank you again for joining us for another episode of the Bricked Up Podcast.
Yes,
building your algorithm brick by brick.
All right, have yourselves a good day, good evening, good afternoon, good night. Go shit yourself. Love you.
You little shitters.
Good luck.
You little bricked up brickers.
my little brickies, legally distinct from Bricky, the YouTuber.
All right, bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye, everybody.